Be seated. Have a seat, please.
Tell me your name.
Michelle Amos.
And yours?
Marva Alexander.
Okay. Who owns the car?
I do.
This is your daughter, who's 18?
Yes, I am.
These three girls used to be friends of yours.
Yes.
According to the complaint that I read, Miss Alexander, one of these girls, who used to be in a close relationship with your daughter, got drunk at a party. Who was that? That was you. Your last name is?
Johnson.
You're 18?
19.
19. What was the party you were at?
It was a birthday.
Whose birthday?
Jessica's.
Me.
Who was serving alcohol?
One of the guys, he was 21.
Well, he can drink.
Yeah.
But nobody else can. So that wasn't smart. When was it?
July 11th.
When you got drunk, Miss Johnson, who took you home?
Michelle.
So you drove her home?
Yes, I did.
And after that time, it's my understanding from your mother that you distanced yourself from all three girls.
I did.
Tell me why.
Well, honestly, with Taj and A, I just was like, I need to just cut these people off. I honestly was, I'm going into college at that time, so I'm like, I can't be around the same people. With Jessica, that night, she actually had an attitude over my house. And I was like, why are you mad? Why are you upset? She had an attitude with me and my mother.
Were you angry at something that evening?
No, I was not angry at all. I just didn't want to speak because of what happened. And she thought I was angry at them, and they took me home.
Well, tell me what happened.
Well, of course, she got a little drunk. We came back home. Her mother saw that she was drunk, and we explained what happened.
Whose mother?
Michelle's mother. We explained to her what happened. Well, I explained to her what happened since nobody else wanted to speak up.
Well, what did happen other than the fact that she got drunk?
Yeah, that was it. She just asked how much did she drink, and
Because she was concerned about her.
yeah, and she kept asking Michelle, and Michelle wouldn't tell her, so I told her, and Michelle was upset about that, and I felt like they were mad because I explained it all, so I felt like they were mad because, like, I was snitching on her, but I was really doing the best thing by telling the parent.
Okay. This is July 11th.
Yes.
On what date do you claim your car was vandalized?
September the 20th.
Between July 11th and September 20th, did you have contact with the three girls?
Yes, me and Jessica, a week after we actually started talking again, I had let her go again because I was like, I just felt like they was using me for my car, to be honest.
Well, I want you to be honest with me.
Yes.
That's what we're here for. So neither of the three girls have a car, and you drive, and you have a car.
Yes.
So you figured that their friendship wasn't real, that they just wanted you to take them around. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Most definitely. And Jessica, she had too many attitude problems for me.
Jessica?
She was always mad. She
That's
was
you?
always mad.
Okay, so other than the week later, you had limited contact with them during most of the summer.
Most definitely.
What happened around September 20th?
Actually, it started with Tajane.
Tajane, that would be you.
Tajane Brown, she had called me and she told me, like, oh, you're prank calling my phone. I'm like, what are you talking about?
On what date did she do that?
September 20th.
On the 20th, you thought she was prank calling you?
Her friend prank called me
How do you know that?
because they texted me after they prank called, like the next day.
What did they text you?
We have the messages right here.
I'd like to see it. Now, what made you think it was this young lady who was doing the calling?
Because they
Your Honor?
It wasn't her phone number.
May I speak? It was the
it was the same number her friend was using.
Do you know that this number that these messages are coming from are her cell phone number?
I know because I remember as the number when she did it to somebody else. She sent me those text messages and said, do you know the number? And I said, yes, it was her number.
Just a second. You talking about this number?
Yes, I remember as that number because she had an app.
Okay. You have a cell phone?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. I want you to write down on this piece of paper, which we will verify, your cell phone number, okay?
Most definitely.
Because we have all the paperwork. All right. Would you
And
have
Your
to
Honor,
write
I
down her
also
cell
have-
phone number on this piece of paper, please?
I also have the text messages.
Just write down this.
Okay. Okay.
Is that your daughter's cell phone number?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's a totally different number. It's a totally different area code.
Right, I said it was
She
an
used
app.
She used the app.
When you use
This
an app, you
number.
can change the number. Trust me, I used it before, so I know. And I've seen her use it before. That's how I knew it was her.
Well, anybody can use the app to change their number. Just a second. Anybody can use, from what I'm gathering, and I'm no genius when it comes to the internet, we can all attest to that. But from what you're telling me, anybody can use this app to send text messages and make it appear as if it's coming from a different number. Is that right?
Yes.
So that's what you surmised, that she was using this app that can disguise your cell phone number. But you have no proof of that. Do you understand? All right, so now you're getting these nasty text messages, and we really have no proof of who they come from. And it is your claim that these 3 young women, in response to this, vandalized your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your car was vandalized, according to you, on or about September 20th. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes.
What witness do you have? Because you didn't see it vandalized.
No,
Is
I
that
didn't.
correct? Who was the witness?
I have a Leah Thompson.
Is that a friend of yours?
It's my son's girlfriend. And then I have another one.
Tell me your last name.
Thomas.
Ms. Thomas, tell me what you know about the incident involving the car.
On September 20th, I was on my way to Michelle and Miss Michelle's house. And
What time?
It was around 11:15
In the morning or in the
at
evening?
night.
Okay, so you were on your way there at 11:15 at night, and tell me what you saw.
As I was turning the corner, I saw that Michelle's car was parked. It was parked the way it's parked in this picture. And there was a black car facing the opposite direction right next to it, double parked. So, of course, I had to go around to, pull in the driveway. And as I was pulling on the street, I saw 2 people outside. They had on, dark clothing, dark hoodies. And there was another person in the car I couldn't really see. And, they were, trying to hurry up and get in the car as they saw me slowing down to pull in the driveway. So I stopped, looked at the license plate, wrote it down.
What did you do with the plate?
As soon as I pulled in the driveway, I called my boyfriend, told him to open the door. I got to tell you something. We went in the house. I told him everything I saw, and then we went and knocked on Miss Michelle's door and told her everything. I gave her the plate information, and she called the police.
Do you have the piece of paper that you wrote it
Yes.
down on? I'd like to see it. You filed a police report, I assume.
Yes, I did.
Do you have that police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it.
It's a continuous one.
Well, this was reported on the first report was on the 23rd
Right.
of September.
Right.
Second report was on the 25th of September. The third report was on the 5th of October. Am I correct that your name doesn't appear anywhere in the police reports?
Correct.
Why is that?
When she filed, I left. I wasn't around.
Who's Canary?
My aunt.
She lived with you?
No.
What was she doing in Chicago?
At the time, she was staying with me, was staying with us, because she didn't have an apartment.
So at the time she was there,
Yes.
from Nevada,
Yes.
and you live in Chicago.
Yeah.
Anybody else drive a car in your family?
Yes, my mother.
So your mother has a car.
Yes, she has a Cadillac.
How old is your aunt?
She is 35.
How many of you have a driver's license?
Just us 3.
Do you have a driver's license?
Yes.
Do you have a driver's license?
No.
Do you have a driver's license?
I thought you meant in my household. Sorry.
No. Do you have a driver's license?
Yes.
You do not.
No.
You do not.
No.
And serendipitously, the number of the license plate of your aunt's car,
Yes.
which is not around a lot,
Yeah.
is the same license plate number that's on this piece of paper.
Right. They knew where I lived. They could have easily came and got it.
They could have.
Yeah.
They could have.
Former friends Jessica Ali, Tajane Brown, and Brianna Johnson keyed her car and threatened to beat her up.
Okay. May I see pictures of the car, please? You want to say anything to me?
I do.
I'm ready to hear you.
Okay.
Let's start with what we know.
Okay.
What we know is their car was vandalized. What we know is it was reported to the police so that the license plate number, which is an unusual one because it comes from out-of-state place, is the same license plate number of your sister's car.
Yes.
And I assume that your sister has no issue with them.
No.
The only one that has a driver's license that's permitted to drive is your daughter.
Yes.
And we have no proof at least not that rises to the level of the quantum of proof that I need, that these two young ladies, as opposed to two other people, were involved in this incident. But I don't believe much in serendipity, which is, it just so happens to be because life plays funny tricks. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck.
Okay.
Now, with that in mind, you want to say something to me?
I don't think her mother liked my daughter because of the things that she said to Miss Chalet to my daughter. And I didn't really appreciate the things that she said to Miss Chalet because she hurt my daughter's feelings. I never did call her anything, but I think that her mother doesn't like my daughter. And
that's okay. And that happens. I don't know why. And it really is not an issue for me to try to resolve. The only thing that's before me is whether or not your daughter, while borrowing her aunt's car, participated in the vandalizing of the plaintiff's car. That's the only thing that I have to resolve, and that's really the only thing that I care about.
okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. I never borrowed her car because I couldn't drive the car because her license plates were suspended. So how could I drive the car if the license plates was suspended?
How can you drive a car with suspended license plates?
Yes.
Easily. People drive a car with suspended license plates.
Course,
they drive
but
a car without
I don't want to
insurance.
mess up my record.
They drive a car without driver's licenses. You know, that happens.
Yeah.
What's the make and model number of the car?
It's a 2004 Grand Am Pontiac.
Okay. Do you have an estimate to fix it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Oh, well, we're not spending $3,000 to fix up your car, okay? And I assume you want to have it painted.
Yes, exactly.
Fine. I am dismissing the case against Miss Johnson and Miss Brown because there's no proof that these two young ladies were involved in any way that evening. They may or they may not have been.
Okay.
But I'm entering a judgment against Miss Ali for $750. You have your car painted for that.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
Please excuse me, step out.
It's always karma. You do it to somebody, it'll come back on you.
I'm just happy that everything came to the light.
I know I was innocent and I didn't do it.
I think it's a jealousy thing, to be honest.
They could have did it themselves and blamed me because they wanted some money for Habib.
May be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You are brother and sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And your father passed away in May of last year. How old was he?
78.
And how long did he live with the defendant?
Approximately 5 years.
And where did they live together?
In St. Louis.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
And where do you live?
I live in Denver, Colorado.
And where do you live?
I live in St. Louis, Missouri.
Your last name is?
Pendleton.
In 2015, how many times did you see your father?
I was there in January for a visit.
Okay,
And then he passed in May.
Right, so you were there in January.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, when were you there to visit your father?
The prior year.
What month? The prior year, 2014.
March.
Okay, so almost a year past, you hadn't seen him.
No, he came out to visit me in Colorado twice a year.
Did he bring the defendant?
Yes.
And what about you, Mr. Diamond? How many times did you see your father? Weekly? Daily?
Weekly, I think is fair, maybe every other week.
And in the meantime, he was living happily with Miss Diamond.
Yes.
So this is what happened. He died in May, and he provided that Miss Diamond have a life estate in the house, which means she was to live there unencumbered by you, unfettered by you, because he enjoyed the last 5 years living with Miss Diamond, and he wanted her to be comfortable for the rest of her life in a home that she had become accustomed to. Well, you say that Miss Diamond owes you money because she is no longer in the house, and you think that she owes you money for taxes, attorney's fees, that it took you to hire an attorney so that you could go into the house and take whatever property belonged to your father. She wouldn't give you access to the house, and property that she took that belonged to your father. Miss Diamond says that as soon as your father died, you had access to the house. And as a matter of fact, she says on the day of the funeral, you came to the house and took certain property. So you did have access to the house.
That's not true, Your Honor.
He doesn't say it's not true, just you.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Did you go to the house the day of the funeral?
I was staying there.
So you were at the house.
She asked me to stay there.
There's only one attitude here, it's mine. And I want to explain to you that the emotions that you have are not unique. I understand exactly where you're coming from. What you're not factoring into any of the conversation is she, not you, made your father happy and was his day every day for 5 years. you made an occasional visit. You were there every week or every other week. But the person who was
I made
there...
him happy
Hey,
for 50 years, Your Honor.
I don't know that, sir. I don't know that.
I
If
talk to
were
my
there-
dad almost every day.
Do you understand how foolish you're both looking right now? I want you to understand how foolish you're both looking right now.
She made him happy, but the property inside the house and the money that she owed us while she was in the house after he passed away was not part of the life estate. That's what
Now
we're
I'm
seeking.
going to answer you, Mr. Diamond. If she can establish to my satisfaction that your harassment of her forced her to leave the house, which was against the wishes of your father, which is what she says in her answer, that there was a relentlessness about both of you, that she finally said, I'm not staying here anymore. It's not worth it to me.
Your Honor, we never
don't-
spoke to her.
Don't interrupt me.
Okay.
You got where I'm coming from?
Yes,
If
ma'am.
she can establish that to my satisfaction, I'm dismissing your lawsuit. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't care what she took with her. And she may not be able to. But if she can establish that there was a course of harassment that was inconsistent with the wishes of her mate and your father, then I'm throwing you out. I just want you to understand that. So now I'm shifting. Now, May is when Buddy died. Was
Yes.
it a long illness or was it unexpected?
It was pretty unexpected. He had a shoulder replacement, and right afterwards, there was hemorrhaging, and they had to do it again. And I think it was just too much.
Too much for his body.
And his heart stopped.
Now, were you there when the will was read?
No.
Were you there when his will was read?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to see a copy of his will.
I'd like to interject. Could I give a little information about when he passed away?
No, not necessary.
Okay.
And can I share something, Judge?
No. You can be quiet while I read the will.
Okay.
Was there a subsequent will?
There's an amendment.
Well, can I see the amendment where it talks about the life estate? This will was made in 2008. I was confused that it didn't mention the
I'm
defendant.
sorry, Your Honor. There it is.
How long were you and Buddy in a relationship before 2010 when he executed this life estate to you?
Well, we were together 6 years altogether.
Okay, so a year before he executed this. Okay. And where had you been living?
I had a home that I sold in order. What we had planned to do, I had my own home. When we decided that we loved each other and we're going to share our lives together, I sold my house. He was going to sell his, and we were going to buy something together. And then I moved in with him, and I liked the location in the house. And even though it was old and it needed updating, I said, we need to stay here. So that's what we did. So I stayed there, and I just got rid of a lot of his old messed up furniture and put
you
mine in.
sold your house?
Yes, I sold my house.
Now I want you to tell me when you moved out.
Oh, of the house with
Yes,
Buddy?
yes.
I moved out on December 4th.
So approximately 6 months after he died.
Yes.
Your Honor, we didn't get the house back until December 16th.
Who cares?
Because it was trashed.
Who cares?
I have pictures.
So do I.
6
And I
months after, just a second. You don't have to show me pictures. 6 months after he died.
Yes.
Where did you go?
When I moved, I had to buy a condominium.
When did you purchase the condo?
On December 3rd, I think it was.
Now, did you receive any money from Buddy's estate?
No.
Yes, she did. I'm sorry.
Just a second. I would like you to tell me what money she received.
She received a car, $30,000.
No. I said money. Do you know what money is? Money is currency.
Okay.
Money is currency. Did she receive any currency?
Well, she received currency from me because she made me pay for my dad's car that he left for me.
Approximately $12,000.
My name was on the title, and because he didn't, it was the name of Jerome and Johanna, our two names on the title.
I got the picture. Just a second.
Okay.
I got the picture.
Thank you.
I do have the
He
picture.
put transfer of death on
I
everything
do.
he meant for her to have. He
Just-
told me that
Don't
the
listen
car
to
was
me.
meant for
Don't
me.
Listen to me. You can't tell me what he told you. If the title to a car is in two names, that means when he dies, it becomes her car.
That's what we
And
did.
if you wanted the car, pay for it. So the answer is, Buddy left you no money.
Right.
Just a life estate in the house. Now, all I want you to show me is, do you have any documentation? Because I can already see what's going on over here. But do you have any You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. You are dishonoring your father's memory.
Thank you.
And you're dishonoring his last wishes.
Sister Susan Pendleton say their late father's girlfriend, Johanna Joan Diamond, owes for property taxes, attorney fees, and the return of their father's possessions.
Now, the last thing he wrote, he went to a lawyer's office without you, and he said, I want my soulmate with whom I'm living to have a life estate in a house that I bought. Not you, not you. He bought. It was his property. And he had a desire that this person should live there for the rest of her life. And then you can sell it. You can do whatever you want with it. And I have a feeling, just a feeling, based upon both of your actions today, just by the things that you said and by the evidence that you weren't so forthcoming with, that you made it so unpleasant for her.
That is not true.
Now I'd like to see it.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor.
Not you.
I have
her.
emails.
David is your son.
Yes.
So you wrote the emails, Mr. Diamond, to her son.
Who was an attorney, Your Honor.
I don't care. Just answer my question. So you were taking the patio furniture, a chair at the front desk, a rabbi picture, and any other items of theirs that are not in the basement, garage. We will handle the basement and garage. What were you doing with the patio furniture in your father's house?
It was our patio furniture, Your Honor.
What do you mean it was ours? I don't understand.
It was mine and my sister's. After my father passed away, all of his possessions became ours. So it was our patio furniture after he passed away.
In his will, he left her the right to live in the house, not the right to her his possessions. They kept everything very separate, Your Honor, very separate.
You mean like the patio furniture?
Yes, ma'am.
You mean like the patio furniture?
For instance, but we had been told, Your Honor, that she was looking for a condo and was moving out. We were told that from the very beginning.
No.
We did not harass.
By
all
her
we
son.
wanted.
No, just a second. Just a second.
Wait, can I finish?
No.
Let her finish.
Because what you're saying is hearsay. You can't tell me.
I approve.
You'll show it to me.
Okay.
You cannot tell me what somebody else told you. Do you understand?
No, I'm not saying that.
You said her son told me she was going to move out.
Her
They put it in writing.
attorney emailed us, Your Honor.
She was there.
And
We had to sit down before I left town after the funeral, and she told us at that time that she was looking to move out. So we
That
weren't
is a
harassing.
lie.
We were just asking for status so that we could get Dad's stuff out. We weren't trying to harass to get her to leave. Nowhere in here do any of these emails say, get out.
That's a
They
lie.
just say, can you please give us an update so that we can get our memories and our
Possessions.
memorial-
Just one second.
My
Hey,
father.
what kind of memories do you have from the patio furniture?
Well,
We had a lot of good times, Your Honor. We had family functions there. My parents purchased that patio furniture.
I got it.
My mom purchased
I got it.
the furniture. The point
I got
was,
it.
this was in June, and if she was going to be out in the next couple of months, we wanted to be able to sell the patio furniture during prime time.
So that was
to
the
be
attachment
able-
to the patio furniture. The lots of good times. Just a second. I'm just following what your sister said and what you
Yes,
just said.
ma'am.
That we had a lot of good times.
With the
we had a
patio
lot of good
furniture.
times with the
We
patio
did, yes.
furniture. So you wanted to keep it for sentimental value while you sold it in June or July because that was the summer season. Is that what I'm?
Yes.
I mean, that's the two exchanges that you just.
Yes.
You both
I
look
would
so
agree.
ridiculous. You look ridiculous.
Your Honor, we asked her son, the attorney from the huge law firm that would not let us talk to her. We had no communication with Joan from about.
He
a week
started
after.
itemizing.
And the emails all.
All of these emails
Poor
were him
buddy.
itemizing.
Poor buddy.
What
Little
was
did he
there.
know he had such grubbing children. Your case is
That is
dismissed.
not
We're
the
done.
case.
Thank you.
All you guys excuse me, step out.
She left all of her stuff and took out a bunch of my father's stuff.
Judge Judy knew right from the start that they were liars.
I think it's very sad that this is the memory that we're left with.
I think he.
You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Basting, how long did you and Mr. Walker live together?
About a year.
And you have a child that's how old?
9 months.
During the course of the time that you were living together, you bought a couple of cars.
Mm-hmm.
according to you, you put down the down payment on the cars, and then when you were together, he lost his job and he couldn't pay certain of the bills. You covered those expenses. You also claimed that when you got sick while you were living together, it was complications due to the pregnancy. You had some hospital bills that he should be responsible for. Then you broke up. Now that you broke up, you want all this money back. But at the time that it all happened, you were living as a family, right?
Well, with the medical bills and the car insurance and all of that, we were very on and off. We broke up right when I found out I was pregnant due to finding out that he was trying to have sexual relations with one of my friends.
What month and year was that?
That was in October of 2014.
And in what month and year did you buy these cars?
September 2014.
So within a few weeks of buying the cars.
Yep.
And then when you found out you were pregnant, there was a period of hospitalization. During that period of hospitalization, were you on or off?
We were off. The hospitalization was due to him infecting me with syphilis while I was pregnant, and he chose not to inform me that he had this infection until I found out for myself. And with the infection, my son had congenital syphilis, which gave him a 50% chance of dying. We still have a ongoing medical follow-up to ensure that he will grow up to be strong and healthy. So there's going to be medical bills, more medical bills.
Let's finish with the car first, because that's a very easy thing. So what you're really suing him for is periods of time that you made some car payments and insurance payments after you broke up with him, but was still on again, off again. And ultimately, you had the car that he had repossessed. So he no longer has the car. And the car was repossessed what month and year?
October 2015.
So he no longer has the car, because I'm going to deal with his counterclaim very quickly. Mr. Walker, what you want is, you say you put down the down payment on the car, so since she had the car repossessed, you want your down payment back.
I want all the money that I put into the vehicle.
Why would I do that? What possible theory would I have, legal theory, for ordering her to pay you back for all the money that you put into the car when it was very easy? The car wouldn't have been repossessed. Financial companies don't want to be in the business of being car owners. All that had to be done was that all the payments and the insurance were up to date. Did you do that? Is not an answer. Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Show me that everything was up to date and they still repossessed your car.
When she repossessed the vehicle, all of my belongings were in the vehicle.
That's not what I asked you. I just want you to show me that you were up to date with all the payments on the car for the year after you broke up, with insurance payments and car payments.
I am unable to provide you that information.
Well, then I'm dismissing your counterclaim. That's very easy. Because car companies really don't want to be in the business of owning old used cars.
Right.
And if the car payments were current and the insurance payments were current, they would not repossess the car.
They didn't. She did.
And then it was turned into the finance company. I assume it was turned into the finance company, was it not?
Yes, and if you don't mind me adding, they did attempt to repossess the car before I signed over the voluntarily resurrendered, but he halfway drove it off of the tow truck and over a curb to take it because he...
That's not true.
Whatever. Whatever. Were the car payments current?
They were not.
I didn't think so.
I have proof of that.
Okay, so his counterclaim's dismissed. Actually, the only thing that I'm interested in, and I'm not interested in the car payments. That was your foolishness. That was your foolishness in signing papers that made you responsible without a ring on your finger as somebody that you could trust.
Absolutely.
Having anything to do with a car for him. You bought a car, he bought a car. It was like two idiots together. Let's buy two cars together. You know, we can't afford a house together, but we can do a car together. Now, have you taken him to court yet for child support?
I have filled out the paperwork.
That's not my question.
No, we have a court date May 4th because he requested it.
Okay.
Due to not agreeing with the process of the evaluation, is what the paperwork says.
Well, I don't understand what you mean, the evaluation. You mean how much money he has to pay for child support?
I'm not really sure. You would have to ask him that. I'm unsure what it means. I haven't talked to him about it. But I do have
Well,
proof
it's a
that
child support formula. You understand that, sir?
Correct.
And what's your problem with paying child support?
I don't have any issue. I have an older son that I pay child support for now.
Okay, so I assume that the matter of child support will be resolved. Let's talk about the medical bills. What month and year were you in the hospital?
I was not in the hospital. My son was in the hospital in November of 2015. for 10 days.
How old was he?
4 months, 3 months.
Did you see your son during that period of time, sir?
I actually found out that he was in the hospital through a third party.
Okay.
She would not even call me and let me know what was going on.
All I want to know, Mr. Walker, is...
I was.
Was the child in the hospital as a result of a congenital illness that was passed on to the plaintiff by you?
Yes.
Okay. So if there were any outstanding medical bills, do you consider it your responsibility to cover those?
These are all formalities for me.
I'm just
Yes.
asking you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You would consider that your responsibility.
Absolutely.
Both your legal responsibility and your moral responsibility
Absolutely.
to take care of those bills. Did you have medical insurance?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Yes.
What were the uncovered medical bills for your son?
They were only about $80 as of now.
So what bills are you suing him for?
The $80, and then the upcoming bills to come from the ongoing treatment.
You don't know what those
Right.
upcoming bills
Right.
will be. And those upcoming bills will be the subject, I am certain, of at least inquiry at your family court hearing. But small claims courts cannot issue judgments in futuro, not knowing what the actual damage is. So can I see the bill where you had the out-of-pocket expense of $80? Because that's an easy, Mr. Walker certainly
Yeah.
isn't going to balk at that.
And then I also wanted to bring up the punitive damages for ruining my credit, and I also borrowed him $2,500
You
to
didn't
help.
borrow him anything, you loaned him.
Correct.
$76.51. Now, Mr. Walker, just for my
Yes,
own
ma'am.
information, how much money do you clearly you're not the custodial parent for this child, how much money, if any, do you pay the plaintiff each week, month, every 2 weeks for your son's support?
Nothing right now.
Why?
She's not been in contact with me at all. I have not been able to visit or see or even hear my son's voice in over 3 months at this point.
Well,
she's
what
utilizing-
happened 3 months ago, Mr. Walker? If so, the son is 9 months old now, so for the first 6 months you were seeing him. How often?
2 to 4 times a week?
Yes.
That is not accurate.
Enough to satisfy you.
Absolutely.
What happened 3 months ago?
She decided that I was doing this on purpose. Like I went out and tried to find somebody who had some sort of disease and brought it back. And when she told me about it, was the first time I had any knowledge of it. So I went and got myself tested. And when I went to the doctor's office, they just a normal check. What they did was they asked me whomever I've slept with. I named her, and she got a phone call. And after that, it was like, I don't ever want to talk to you again. And
So that was 3 months ago.
I believe so.
Well, this is not by way of making an excuse, but you can understand how furious she is.
To a certain degree, I would agree with that. But this isn't about her and I. This is about me being able to see my son.
Oh, I understand that. I've just asked you a question. That you can understand her fury. Okay, let me try to put it to you this way, Mr. Walker. And I want you to think about it when I asked you, because you didn't answer my question fast enough to suit me.
Judge friend Orlando Walker owes for a car loan, insurance costs, medical bills, and damaged credit. Orlando is countersuing for the return of money he invested in a car and for withholding visitation with his son.
Now, let's say instead of having a son, you had a daughter. And when your daughter was 19 years old, she had a boyfriend, Steady, and that boyfriend infected her with a disease. How furious would you be?
Be pretty upset.
Pretty furious.
I'd be
furious.
upset because I don't know the dynamics of the situation. I don't know
Well,
what
you
happened.
don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out the dynamics of this situation. You have another child for whom you pay child support, correct?
Correct.
That child doesn't live with you.
Nope.
So you have 2 children who don't live with you.
Correct.
I would assume, sir, that since for the last 3 months you haven't seen your son, I must assume that you also didn't march down to family court yourself to file for visitation.
I did not.
Well, if you were the kind of parent that said, gee, I see my child 4 days a week and all of a sudden I wake up and I can't see him, I'm going down to family court. I realize I made a big mistake, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't see my child. I'm going down to family court to file for visitation. You
All in a
didn't do that.
pipeline.
That's not a pipeline. That's not
I
a
was
pipeline.
working on it.
That's not a working on it. You can go into family court pro se, that is without a lawyer, fill out one page that said, I want to see my son. Let me tell you something. If I woke up one day and didn't see my little dog next to me, I would say, what happened to my dog? I would be out there with flyers, and I would call every vet in the area, and that's my dog.
Maybe you have the time to do that. I didn't entirely have the time to do that.
Just a minute. If you think that I have more free time than you do, you're crazy.
I never said that, but you're
crazy. This doesn't take a lot of time, sir.
Yeah.
This takes a morning to go to family court, which you didn't do. So you have 2 children, and you have no day-to-day responsibility for them. The only thing that you have to do is, for the one child who doesn't live with you, you pay some child support. Just for my own information, how much child support do you pay?
$300 a month.
And how old is that child?
7.
7. Bird, he's going to tell you that doesn't cover it. Probably doesn't cover half of it. But it's reasonable, and I assume you're up to date in your child support.
Correct.
So let's say they double that in order to provide some support for this child. And maybe that's one of the reasons why you didn't hop yourself down to family court to file for visitation when you haven't seen the child in 3 months, which is part of your counterclaim, which I'm dismissing because you never availed yourself of the opportunity to go in and tell a judge, I want to see my son, because you knew contemporaneously with that was going to be a request for support. So right now, the only thing that I can award you, Ms. Basting, is the $76.51 that he owes you, that are your out-of-pocket expenses. But I can guarantee you that if the family court judge is worth his or her salt, is going to take into consideration the child's future medical needs and make sure that if you have medical insurance for him, that the defendant is going to cover any overage that you may have in the future for him, since it was his fault that the child is suffering now. Anyway, all right, that's my judgment. We're done.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I made some mistakes.
I've done a lot for that man, and all he gave me in return was an STD.
I love my son to death.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ragney versus Cian Caglione. Step forward.
25-year-old Miranda Ragney is suing her former roommate, 20-year-old Benjamin Cian Caglione, for an unpaid loan for clothes, an insurance deductible, and apartment damage.
Ms. Ragney, how long did you and the defendant live together?
About 5 months.
Did you lease the apartment together?
Yes, we did.
How large is the apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom with a master.
Okay, it's a 2-bedroom. That satisfies my question.
All right.
Did you each have your own bedroom?
Yes.
So this was sort of a friendly relationship that you
Absolutely.
had. Is that so far correct?
For the most part, yes.
And there was also a time that you decided to sort of try a business together, flipping cars.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you actually invest in any cars, flip them, and make some money?
I do.
With the plaintiff?
I
with the plaintiff?
2, yes.
Okay, you made a little money. Do you work other than that?
I do.
You work someplace else? What about you?
I'm a freelance hairstylist.
Okay. Which means you don't have a steady shop that you go to?
No, but I have steady clientele.
Okay. How much money did you make for the 2 cars that you flipped together? Just curious.
Me, personally, 0. And it was more than 2 cars.
How much money do you say she made from the 2 cars?
Her making nothing. Me, about $500.
Well, that's an interesting partnership. Is that because you put in all the money?
No. What had happened was, from the beginning, we had gone up there and she was going to pay rent for the apartment, and I was going to drive her vehicle and go to the Manheim auctions and sell vehicles and stuff. I had money to put up front, and so did she. Now, the money that she put up front, when we first got up there, we had signed a notarization from the bank, okay, and then that was about...
I'm getting a zhuzh in my head from this story, which goes far beyond what I need to know. I am withdrawing my question about why she didn't get it.
Okay.
Consider it withdrawn. Now, you moved into the apartment when?
In March of 2015.
Are you still in the apartment?
I am, yes.
In March of 2016, did you renew the lease?
Yes, I did.
Was he still living there?
No.
So you're happy in the apartment?
I'm much happier without him.
Great. So then I'm going to deal with the first part of your lawsuit, which is when you moved in together, you both, according to you both agreed to fix up the apartment, buy some things for the apartment to make it look nice, and he was supposed to pay for half.
Yes, absolutely.
And he never did.
Not once.
And he's not there in the apartment anymore.
No, he's not.
And you are.
Yes, but for 5 months he was in the apartment.
I don't care. You think I'm going to do what he owes for the 5 months that he got to enjoy, what you both were supposed to pay for, but he didn't? That's ridiculous. I didn't go to school for that.
Judge Judy says former roommate Benjamin Cian Caglione owes for a loan and apartment damage.
So you're still living there?
Yes.
You like living there? According to you, you're much happier? That's good. So he doesn't owe you any money for what he was supposed to pay for the fix-up of the apartment. You're happy without him. You have a new roommate?
I only have a room.
Just a second. That's a question.
Okay.
In March, you just signed a new lease for a 2-bedroom apartment. Do you have a new roommate?
No, I do not.
So you decided to rent the 2-bedroom apartment yourself?
Yes.
So that's wonderful. Now, the next thing that you claim that he owes you money for, if I'm reading this thing correctly, are some clothes, suits.
Yes.
Okay. And when is it that you claim that you made this loan to him for suits?
That would be in May of 2015.
A year ago?
Yes.
And he moved out, what date did you move out?
I want to say July, maybe July 17th.
Of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
What?
He didn't move out. He got kicked out because there was an incident that happened. We got into a fight. He put his hands around me. There's some damages. My mom had to come up and secure this situation. So it's not that he moved out. He was kicked out for my safety.
He didn't move in. He moved out.
He was kicked out for my safety.
Fine. I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's not relevant to this case.
Okay.
So tell me the circumstances around the loan, alleged loan, for clothes.
Because we were business partners, I knew that he had to look a certain part to be able to sell cars. So he asked me if he could...
No, you started out with, I knew he had to look a certain way.
I knew that he had to look a certain way.
You knew
We
that
were
he had to
business
look
partners.
a certain way. And let's go step by step so that I believe it. So far, you see where we're going with this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you knew he had to look a certain way to flip cars.
Absolutely.
And?
He didn't have the things that he needed. And because we were business partners, I felt it was necessary that in order for us to make money and this to work, he needed the things that he needed in order to sell them, the cars. So I allowed him to purchase suits on my credit card. And he told me that Friday he would pay me back. I have text messages saying that.
Which Friday?
The Friday after that he charged them in May. I have the dates right here.
Okay. So now I'd like to see the text messages that he says, I will pay you back on Friday for the suits that you thought that I needed to look nice.
I didn't think that he did as well. But here you go. He also agreed to pay 30% back.
Okay, so what he said, he doesn't actually say he'll pay you back on Friday. What this says is he'll have your credit card back to you on Friday.
No, the credit card paid. But maybe not in those words, but that's how
That's not what it says. That's not what it says.
Former roommate Benjamin Ciancaglione owes for a loan and apartment damage.
Now, this says I'll have the credit card back to you on Friday. Later on, when he goes on to say a bunch of other things, he says, I don't care. It's not that I'm trying not to avoid you. I'll pay you back when I have it. I know I owe you the money. Was that the money for the clothes?
It was.
How much do you owe her for the clothes?
Around $150.
Show me.
I have the receipts.
How much did he owe you for the clothes?
Around $442.
Not around. I don't want to know around.
$442.59 plus $210.
I did not spend
$210 for what?
There's 2 receipts here from Burlington Coat Factory. All the things that are highlighted
I'd like to
are
see.
his purchases. He never had my credit card. We went to the store together.
How many suits did you buy?
2. And then clothes. Dress shirts, dress shoes.
The shoes he has on right now.
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine. Okay, so you owe $652 for the clothes.
If I may, Your Honor, as of all the clothes and everything that was in the apartment, the day when I came down on July 17th to Delaware, her and the landlord trashed all my stuff in the dumpster, including watches.
Just a second. Are you telling me that the clothes that were purchased, she disposed of?
Either disposed of or kept or gave to somebody. I'm not too sure.
So you don't have them?
No, ma'am.
You don't have them?
No, ma'am.
Didn't take them with you?
No, ma'am. I did not know I was going to not come back.
Because you put your hands on me and you were not allowed back.
No, Your Honor. There was never a police
Just a
report.
second. Now, the very last thing that I'm going to hear is property damage. So when did this property damage take place? On what date?
This was the end of July, or I'm sorry, the end of June. Right before he was kicked out and left.
He left in July?
No, he left in June.
June. June what?
I don't know the exact date, but I know that's the end of June.
Let me see a photograph of the damage. Let me see a photograph of the damage.
There's multiple. Here's the door that he threw me up against on and choked me. There's also holes punched in the wall. You know, I was in my own home and someone picked me up and threw me against the wall. And my mom had to come up from downstairs and defuse the situation. And I then had to live with my mother. And the next day I filed in court against him.
Did you file
I did.
a protective order? I'd like to see it.
No, I didn't file a protective order. I tried to, but at the time he was already gone. He was out of state. I couldn't get him served. I couldn't locate him.
Did you file a police report?
I did.
I'd like to see it. And then I'd like to see the bills for fixing the door and the hole in the wall. Well, this is a problem.
Judge Judy continues in a
complaint that you filed.
That's original.
Just a second.
Okay.
This is the civil complaint that you filed, and I'm going to read it.
Okay.
Benjamin signed a written contract after lending him money that he promised to pay.
I'm not here for that money.
He also took advantage of my mental illness by pressuring me and threatening me to get credit cards and make numerous purchases for himself. He has also committed a hit and run in my car and will not pay the deductible nor take the responsibility for the damages made to the car. He also convinced me to get an apartment which he has moved out of and left me with the full rent. I asked you for the police report that you filed after this alleged assault that resulted.
I did not file a police report because my parents lived downstairs. They took me and brought me downstairs and had him thrown out of the apartment.
Anything else you want to tell me?
No, Your Honor.
Your complaint's dismissed. We're done.
Excuse me, step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
My apartment, my car.
I never put my hands on her. I don't owe her any money.
And nothing's being done about it.
Unfortunately, she wanted a relationship with me, and I didn't want anything but business.
And as a woman, I feel like something needs to be done.
And as of the damages that she's talking about, it never happened.
He's a con artist.
And it's really unfortunate, but that's the world that we live in.
I'm never going to help anyone, and I don't trust anyone.
It's never going to happen again. Unfortunately, business is business.
This isn't over. I will get my money back, somehow, some way.
Friends is friend and family is family, and it should stay like that.
Let's have a seat, huh?
I'm going to start inherited a home. Is that right?
It was my home with my ex-husband. He passed away, and I received the property.
And the intention was that you wanted to fix the house up and then either sell it or rent it. Miss Lucas says that you made an arrangement with her to the house. She moved into the house with your mother.
Yes.
The idea was for you to work on the house to get it sort of in condition to either sell or rent. And you claim the arrangement was she was going to pay you for your work, and in addition to paying you for the work that you were doing in the house, you and your mother could live there rent-free. You lived there for how long?
Approximately 7 months.
Rent-free?
No.
How long did you live there rent-free?
We lived there about 5 months rent-free.
Okay. And after 7 months, she evicted you. Is that right?
She was evicted after she signed a lease agreement to rent.
You evicted her for non-payment of rent.
Yes.
Which is part of your counterclaim. And your claim against her is for $5,000, money that you were owed for the work you did in the house. The contract for the work.
We did not have a written contract. We had a verbal contract.
Fine. Then tell me what the verbal contract was. You were supposed to move into the house when?
We actually took possession of the house July 9th, 2013.
And you moved into the house without a written lease. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the arrangement was you were going to live there rent-free.
Correct.
And where is the house located?
Oxnard.
How large a house is it?
It's about a little over 2,000 square feet.
You know the going rent for the house?
The rent she agreed to was $1,800 a month, and that started in December. Now, may I?
Just a second. Okay. That started in December of 2013. So you moved into the house in July of 2013, and you started working on the house. Is that right?
Yes.
I want you to tell me what specific contract you are alleging that you had with her with regard to your payment for the work you did in the house.
My broker at the time was her agent. I worked for this broker. He said...
You can't tell me what your broker said. Tell me the contract you had with Miss Spencer. Broker has absolutely nothing to do with a contract that you are alleging with Miss Spencer. So far, what I'm hearing is you and your mother moved into a very nice house. You moved into it in July. You paid no rent. And at a time when the house was either up and running, getting ready to be either sold or rented, you said you wanted to rent it and you signed a lease, right?
No.
Can I see the lease that she signed?
I signed a lease, but that was not the agreement.
I don't care. So far, I haven't heard an agreement. So far, if you signed a lease, that's the agreement.
When I moved into that house, I was not allowed to speak to Ms. Spencer because of the broker.
Just a second. That would not be my problem.
I'm telling you what the contract was, though.
You can't tell me what the contract was if you didn't speak to her. You can only have a contract with two people have a contract together. If you negotiate a deal with an attorney, then you have a written contract. But if you are negotiating a contract allegedly with a third person, I can't tell if there's a meeting of the minds between the two principals. So if you never had a contract with her directly, you had no contract with her. So I have to deal with what I have, which is you have certain skills, as you say in your complaint, uncross your arms. There's only one attitude here, that's mine. And you moved in, you lived rent-free, $2,000 a month. You lived rent-free for 5 months. That's $10,000. That's rent-free. And then when she said, okay, it's enough already because I'm using this as income property. If you want to rent it, fine. Otherwise, I'm going to have somebody else rent it. So you signed a lease. And the lease provided that you were supposed to pay $1,800 a month rent, month to month, beginning December of 2013.
Correct. I wrote the lease.
Did you pay December's rent?
Yes.
Did you pay January's rent? Good. How much did you pay?
$1,800.
And you have proof of that?
Yes.
Great. I'd like to see it.
That is a receipt from her bank. We would go to her bank and deposit either a check or cash into the account.
Okay, so this is a receipt, received $1,800 on January 7th, 2014.
Yes.
That's the date. I said, did you pay December?
Yes, I did pay December. My problem is that I did not know Ms. Spencer was going to countersue me for anything. So I was not able to prepare in such a short time. I had 5 days' notice. I had a death in the family. I had not had time to go and pull these statements or the receipt.
Well, you had an opportunity to get this one.
That's the one I had saved in my file.
Okay. Did she pay December's rent?
She deducted, or I deducted, $1,370.
What do you mean you deducted?
We deducted $1,370 because she said she had some work done on the house. And after that, I told her, please don't do anything work on the house because I need to get the money together. I may be able to get somebody that would charge less. So I do have the receipt that she presented to me.
And that was for December?
That was for December.
Okay, so you agreed that she pay you less money in rent for December because, according to this, installed wood flooring, 4 light fixtures, water damage repair, roof repair. Roof repair was $1,115. And you, I assume, have the bill from the roofer for that?
Yes.
Great. I'd like to see that, please. Okay. So then December and January are covered, right? In what month did you move out?
We moved out March 15th of 2014.
Just a second. December and January. Did you pay rent in February?
No.
Why not?
Because she owes me over $13,000.
I'm still waiting for the contract. I haven't heard a thing about a contract that you had with her.
We moved into the house. Miss Spencer was not aware of the fact that she was still entitled to this house. She was very concerned about the fact that it was going to go into foreclosure.
Let's understand something.
Okay.
You can't tell me what she's concerned about, what she's unhappy about. You can tell me what the contract that you had with her is.
The agreement was that we move into the house, we clean up the house, she provided all the containers for dumping. We move in, we clean up the house, we clean up the yard, we get it ready to sell. She was going to try and get a loan on the property, we helped her get caught up on the mortgage, which was 3 months behind.
Just a second. Who paid the mortgage?
Her broker.
My broker, who introduced me to...
I don't care about the broker. I'm talking about you. So far, I hear that you were going to clean up the house. She was going to provide the containers. You were going to clean up the house and clean up the yard. And
we informed Shirley that we moved into the house. There were 2 rooms livable, that's it, out of the entire house, and 1 bathroom functional. She agreed that we would make all the repairs and all the necessary changes to get the house ready to sell. But she would reimburse us for all of those.
When did you have that conversation with her?
We had that conversation around a dining room table inside the house. And Gary was there, my mother was there, and several other people.
With whom?
With Shirley and her son, Mark.
What you're telling me is she agreed to reimburse you for your expenses.
Yes.
The actual expenses that you had, not for your work, but the actual expenses that you paid to other vendors.
Correct.
Fine. When did that conversation take place?
It was just before the holidays, so it was October.
And you had moved in July.
In July, she had agreed.
No, not she agreed.
Landlord Shirley Spencer owes for the money she spent to fix up her home. Shirley is countersuing for rent and attorney fees.
Now, I'm talking about your conversations with her, not the broker, not anybody. So far, you move in July. Now, we have July, August, September. Now, the conversation took place in October.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Did you agree in October to reimburse her for the expenses? Not anything that she was doing, not her time. The actual expenses that she outlaid on the house.
I did not. I never, from the beginning, agreed to pay her. I allowed them to stay in the house in lieu of getting the home prepared for either rental or selling, period. I did tell her many times, do not do any work. I can get someone in to do the work. I need to get the money together. Please don't do any work without telling me first. The first month's payment, I did go ahead and deduct that amount.
Okay. When was the first time that Miss Lucas presented you with a bill for actual expenses that she expended, like for the roof?
That was actually, she presented it to me for when I was to pick up the first check for the first month's rent in December. That's when she gave me
this bill.
This bill.
Okay. What else?
Miss Spencer and I had a conversation in December when she called me and she said, I negotiated a mortgage for the house and it's going to be $1,800, which she couldn't afford. And I said, okay, we don't want you to have issues, so we will help you make those payments. But she said that once she got the new loan, she would take out a loan to pay back for the monies that we put into the house.
Just a second. Show me where she said that.
Here's a text message from Miss Spencer.
Fine. Love to see it. This is an agreement with you, madam. She says, what is your proposal for this amount? If approximately $4,200, please do not perform any additional repairs without, and then it's cut off. On what date is this? That's exactly what she said.
That was in January.
Yeah, you had been living there since
but
July.
We have been working on this house with was in disarray. It was unlivable. We were getting the house ready for her to sell through her broker, and I was an agent, a part of that. And
Show
she
me
agreed
a
to this.
contract with her.
It's not in writing.
No.
It's a verbal contract we
That's
had with her.
too bad. That's too bad. You consider yourself lucky you lived there rent-free with your mother. July, August, September, October, November. If I believe this,
But we worked on this house. We worked every single it ready for her to sell. Her son was there, Mark was there, and they both stood there and agreed in the kitchen that we would be reimbursed for all the work done in this house and all the hours, and I have it all outlined here. I have over $14,000 in expenses.
Listen to me. Sue the realtor that you made a contract with, not her. As far as she was concerned, the only agreement that you had with her was you and your mother were going to live there rent-free and fix up the house. And when it got to a point where the house was ready to be sold, cleaned up, she provided the dumpsters for the cleanup. You provided the labor for the cleanup. Then you would get out. And if you have a problem with the realtor that you were working with, realtors usually put every single thing in writing. If you have a problem with the realtor, sue the realtor, not her. Your case is dismissed. So is your counsel.
The next case.
All parties in the matter of McIntosh versus Andaya step forward.
Tony McIntosh is suing his former friend, Jane Andaya, for an unpaid loan to pay her rent.
Mr. McIntosh, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for a loan that you extended to her in the amount of $1,500.
Yes, that is correct.
Defendant acknowledges that you, in fact, gave her $1,500. She says that it was a gift from you. There was never any intention that she would repay that money to you. Tell me the date that you gave her the money.
It was on January 5th, 2015.
How do you know the defendant?
I met Jane through her brother and sister. I live in Northern California, where I'm friends with them. I moved to Southern California, and I was introduced to her.
Okay. Did you date?
Not at all, no.
So you were just friends?
Yes.
And when was that introduction?
I'm not sure exactly the month, but it was in 2014. I was looking for an employee. I had posted it on Facebook, and her sister had mentioned to me that her sister was looking for a job and if I'd be interested in interviewing her. So
Did you?
I did, yes.
Did you hire her?
I did, yes.
Is she still working for you?
No.
How long did she work for you?
It was approximately a year.
What kind of work do you do?
At that time, we do print centers for architects and engineers. And so my role was to work with the sales reps and put together proposals, contracts, and go out and close deals.
Did you have an office?
Yes.
Where?
In Monterey Park and in Costa Mesa.
And where did Miss Andia work?
In Monterey Park.
Did you pay her in cash or by check?
She worked for the company.
So she was paid by check?
Yes.
How much did she earn?
Not 100% sure, approximately.
How much did you earn?
I earned roughly around $35,000 to $40,000 a year.
When did you work for Mr. McIntosh?
It was actually around 2012.
Until when?
A little less than a year I worked there.
Okay. And you remain friends?
Yes.
So I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding this loan, Mr. McIntosh, on the 5th of January.
Well, at the time, just the normal conversations with Jane, she was having a little bit of a hard time. She was going through a separation.
Tell me what the conversation was.
Well, basically, she sent me a text message asking if she could borrow money to help get through a tough time that she was having and pay rent.
Do you have that text?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Well, how many times did you lend her money?
That was the second time.
When was the first time?
It was, I think, probably a couple of weeks before that.
How much was that?
$100.
What was that for?
It was basically, I was going...
Not basically, I just want to know, what was the $100 for?
I was going through a rough time. I'm a single mother. I was going through a recent separation, and basically I was just really financially burdened coming out of the holiday. I didn't work over the holidays, so when I don't work, I don't get paid, and I support my son 100% financially.
So
I ran into a lot of problems in paying bills and coming up with rent. So Tony offered to help me. I conversed with him, and I said, you know, I'm actually thinking about going to get a loan, and he had advised me that, you know, that's a ripoff because those interest rates are really high, and you'd be paying them back forever, which, you know, I said, well, I don't really have any other choice. I don't have any other options or anyone, you know, where I can, you know, get help with this situation to get me to pay money for my rent. So he said, well, I have $1,500 that I can give you. And I told him that, you know, I don't feel comfortable borrowing money from friends. You know, it's embarrassing to me. And he said, you know, well, don't feel embarrassed. You know, I have the money, so, you know, here, I can just give it to you. You know, and I told him...
What's all the discussion about the car?
He had told me that he had saved money for his daughter.
And
that's where the money was from. That's where the money was coming from. So I told him that, you know, I said, well, I don't worry about it. If it's too much of a hassle, you know, because there was issues with having him trying to give me the money and how he was going to deposit the money into my account. And I said, you know, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Tony and I were talking, and I mentioned that Christmas had left me broke, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pay my bills that month. It was just a passing comment, and nothing was mentioned after that. My birthday was a few days later, and suddenly a package arrived at my doorstep from Tony. Inside was a very expensive purse, and when I called him to thank him, he said that the purse shouldn't be empty and told me to check my bank account. I found out that he had deposited $1,500 in my account. I'm thinking, that's what you wrote in your answer. This isn't something I made up. This is something that you wrote, that you signed. Now, that's a very different story from what you're telling me today. You want to tell me which one is the truth?
Well, Tony and I have a long...
No. I asked you a simple question. Right. Is the story that you just told me today the truth? Or is the answer that you swore to the truth? Which one? It can't be both. They're two entirely different stories.
With the answer that I had sworn to, ma'am.
The answer that you had sworn to is the truth, that he sent you a bag and he said that it shouldn't be empty.
Correct.
So he put the money in your bank account. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Right. Then I'm going to ask you this following question. Unless you've been living under a rock, and you sound like an intelligent person who's not been living under a rock, you know that I ask questions and I ask follow-up questions, and you knew that it wasn't going to be easy if you came here today. And nobody comes here purposely and looks at me and says, I'm going to lie to her, because, you know, she's pretty miserable looking and I've seen her eat people up. So why in the world, right now, in front of me, would you choose to lie to me? You just told me a whole story.
Correct.
That was totally different from getting a pocketbook in the mail with some good luck money in it.
The money was not in the purse.
It doesn't matter whether it was in the purse or not. He said a purse should not be empty, so I deposited money in your account. That's what you wrote here.
Right, because he was aware of the situation.
I want to tell you something. You're probably a very nice lady. I don't know how you got yourself involved in this double story that you just concocted one way or another, but you owe him $1,500. I feel sorry for you that you were made to look like a fibber. How old is your daughter?
My son's 3.
3. Well, these programs tend to last a long time. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's
all parties in the matter of Turgeon versus Torres Harris. Step forward.
Jeremy Turgeon is suing his neighbor, Angela Torres, and her daughter, 19-year-old Alyssa Harris, for damage to his vehicle when Alyssa rear-ended him at a stop sign. The defendants are countersuing, claiming it was Jeremy who caused the accident.
Mr. Turgeon, you had an automobile accident with this young lady.
Yes.
Is your claim that she rear-ended your car?
Yes.
She says she didn't rear-end your car. You stopped and then backed up into her car.
Oh, no.
Do you have insurance, Mr. Turgeon?
Yes, I do.
What about you? What about you?
No.
So what were you doing driving a car?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What kind of an answer is that? How old are you?
19.
Whose car was it?
Mine.
Ridiculous. Can I see the damage to your car?
I also have a work order.
It's an old Jeep?
Yes.
You were stopped at a light?
At a stop sign.
Stop sign. How far were you from your house?
I'm like 3 houses down.
Were you going home?
I was going to work.
So you were leaving home?
Yes.
You have insurance now?
Yes.
She live with you?
Yes, she does.
You drive a car?
Yes.
You have insurance?
Yeah, yes.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Yes, I know.
You have an accident, especially this kind of an accident. I don't want to hear the nonsense about he backed into her. You have to pay for the damage. How much is the damage to the car?
The damage is $2,912.
I see that.
And I have a couple other receipts, too, from storage of the vehicle.
I don't want to see storage.
I also have a tow receipt, Your Honor.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, it hasn't been fixed yet. That's just the work order.
Well, there are a couple of things here that she's not responsible for. Brake fluid, tire tube, bleed brakes.
Well, when they replace the axle, that's the everything they have to do to actually put the axle in.
Yeah, I know all about it. When did you get this car?
I got it a little over a year ago.
From whom did you purchase it?
I bought it from a private owner.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $2,000 for it, and then I've had a lot more money that I've put into it since then.
But you paid $2,000 for the car, right?
Yes.
Okay. She's not going to pay you $3,000 to fix it if she hit you in the back. Do you have a picture of the rear end where she hit your car?
The pictures that I gave you, you can't tell that it's bent from the pictures, but when it drives down when you're driving down the road, it actually like dog walks. It walks to the right on its own from the rear end, and it's making the tires bald as I drive.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Step out.
I was driving down the street.
61 on the calendar in the matter of Combo and Coy versus Steer. Everybody's been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Are you both the owners of this dance school?
It's a partnership.
Who's going to sleep? Who's going to sleep? Me. Who's going to speak?
I'm going to start and then she can add.
According to your complaint, you hired the defendant to video your annual dance recital.
Correct.
For all the children who take dance lessons at your school. I am somewhat familiar with that, having had children and grandchildren, so I know what that looks like. Instead of each parent trying to get in front of the other, trying to get a picture of their child, you hire one person. Are you thirsty already? I haven't even started. You hire one person to take the video and everybody can buy a copy.
Correct.
And you hired this gentleman, you're going to tell me why in a moment, and all the parents gave him money. How much did they give him?
It was contracted on an individual basis. So the parents paid $22 if they ordered it ahead of time and $25 if they ordered it at the dance recital or afterwards. So the total is
just
$969 for the parents.
Either $22 or $25. And how many children were there?
All of the parents that bought, there were 45 parents that bought videos for their children.
And they did not take any videos of their own because they're not supposed to.
Correct.
And according to your complaint, the video that he took was unwatchable.
Correct.
That he said he was a professional, he was really an amateur, that he came with inappropriate equipment. And not only do you want the money back that was paid to him, but you want other kinds of damages as well. Correct. I want you to forget the other damages. I mean, at best, if I find that what you say is accurate, you can get your money back.
Correct.
Maybe.
For the parents.
So that would be $969.
Okay.
The one wrinkle here is that you went to his place of business and you took the tape.
Yes, because it was after 6 weeks and we waited 4 months. And he basically said that he didn't have the equipment to finish. So then I had to get it from him to contract outside services. Otherwise, we would have never gotten a video.
That's not true.
What kind of experience do you have, Mr. Steer, doing this video?
I worked for ABC as I designed commercials. I edited commercials. I was a morning show director for ABC for about 2 years.
What kind of experience do you have as a videographer?
I've edited commercials.
No, they edited commercials.
Listen
to me. Edited commercials doesn't mean you're a recorder. Edited means you take somebody else's work and you edit it down. That's what an editor does.
I would single-handedly set up cameras.
Mr. Steer.
Get all the videography I needed.
No. Listen to me. I asked you a question because I'm going to get the answer to the question, and not only am I going to get the answer to the question, I am also going to get the names of the people that I can call if I want to, who you videographed. So, don't tell me you were an editor. Don't tell me that you set up cameras. Don't tell me that you worked for ABC doing whatever you did at ABC unless you were there as a videographer.
Right.
Now, how much experience did you have as a videographer and with whom?
This is my first time doing
That's the answer.
For them. And I made sure
No.
though.
It's not what I asked you.
Yeah.
That's not what I asked you. Whether it was your first experience with them, we know that. I asked you if this was the first experience that you have as a videographer with anybody.
Can you go into more depth about that? Give me an
Well,
example of a
let me do this. Have you ever been the recorder, the videographer, at a wedding? Yes or no? And then the names of the people.
For WEMY, I worked in Elmira, New York, and we would set up our studio, and we would have segments for cooking shows, you name it.
What were you? What did you do?
I was a director. I was a production assistant.
Mr. Steer, so far, that's nothing. I know what a production assistant does, and I know what a director does. So far, that's not as a videographer. Have you worked before with a camera? You standing there holding a camera at an event?
And except itself?
Yes.
No.
So this was your first paid job as a videographer?
True.
Did you tell that to Miss Combo?
No. Miss Coy, I did.
He told you that he had never done this before?
He told me that he had worked at ABC. And he also told me that he had gone to school for it, so his qualifications seemed intact. This is the beginning of our dance studio, so we were, and we also had he did give us an example of some of his work.
So he told you that he had never done it before, but he went to school for it?
Yes.
Well, Miss Combo, I haven't seen the tape yet to see whether you got what you paid for, because he says that this is his own artistic expression. I got to see this. But if you're in business and you want to hire somebody and tell the parents of all your students you're not allowed to take pictures because we've hired somebody, you have a responsibility also to hire somebody whose credentials you can verify. And say, listen, everybody's got to start someplace. But maybe he has to start working for somebody free and say, listen, I want to do this wedding, I want to do this 75th birthday, I want to do this bar mitzvah for free. But I want you to write a letter that I did a good job. Me, he's coming to you and he's saying, I have no experience except I went to school.
I was under the understanding that when he worked for ABC, he did do videography. That's why I didn't trust him. I knew that this was his first experience with the dance.
Well, he tried to double-talk me the same way. He just was not as successful as he was with you. Let me see the tape.
This is just a sample, Your Honor, of
some of the
It's a much shortened version, but it just gives examples of things that we were upset about. This is one of our routines.
Shh, just a second. So here I have a lot of little girls dancing around, a little bit blurry, a little bit out of focus, but then we got back into focus. We want to take pictures of the legs, sir. This is a dance recital, not of breasts. Legs, not breasts. Mr. Steer, you are preoccupied with the wrong part of the anatomy, sir.
No, I think you're taking it out of context. There was
Why?
a second camera that I was supposed to be issued by them. It was supposed to be a digital camcorder of that same quality that was going to be at the back of the auditorium. However, they gave me a camera that was 8mm, and the quality of the video was unusable. So parts of this that you're seeing were supposed to be used and edited into it, the other footage.
Here he drops the camera.
But because that's the only footage I have, that was the only footage I had to work with, I wanted to have everything on there so that the music was still on there. That's all I had to work with.
Mr. Steer, it's awful. And you cannot say that this was your artistic vision, because if this was your artistic vision, you're sight impaired.
You're right. You're right. And that's not that's not what I'm trying to convey.
Well,
at
explain
all.
to me what you're trying to convey,
My
sir.
point was, I was told originally I was going to get $2,500 for this project. That was based on the fact that they had 150 students. 100 of those were supposed to sign up.
They didn't.
At $25 each, that would be $2,500.
You mean if they paid you more money, it would have been better?
I want.
Just a second.
Yes,
Mr. Steer, is
that's
what you're
absolutely
telling
right.
me. If
Yes.
they paid you more money, it would have been better?
Absolutely correct. Because, it's because I wanted $1,200 up front. With that $1,200, I was going to rent a professional camera to set up in the back. The close-ups I would have taken with that camera you saw, and the editing would have coincided. But it
Mr.
didn't.
Steer, you did the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing by suggesting to these people that you had sufficient now I see why you poured the water. Suggesting to these people that you had sufficient who is this person, by the
This
way?
is my father.
Yeah, well, he's smiling. You did the wrong thing by suggesting to these people that you had sufficient expertise to record as a historian a dance recital for kids who had worked very hard. Don't speak. Put on your listening ears. Now, that's not to say that you don't have to start someplace. And you're very good at tooting your own horn. But when you separate the wheat from the chaff, sir, you had absolutely no experience as a videographer. None. And if you wanted to say that to Miss Coy, who is not only a little bit coy, but a little bit gullible, I would have said, I have no experience doing this videography. I was a director at ABC. I took a course in photography. I'll do my best. I was a film editor, none of which gives you qualifications to be a videographer.
That's precisely
Nothing.
what I said.
No, I don't think that that's what you said, because I don't think Ms. Coy is stupid, and she wouldn't have hired you if that were the case, because there were other people that they could have hired, or they could have gotten one of the parents to do a job that's better than this. They get their money back, Mr. Steer, and I suggest you go back to school. Judgment for the plaintiff.
James Sanchez and his mother, Joanne Neri, for 2 unpaid loans. Aubrey says she loaned Joanne money to move and James money to fix his truck.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 78 on the calendar in the matter of Ellsworth versus Neri Sanchez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Ellsworth, this young man used to be your boyfriend, and you are Miss...
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you lived for a period of time with your boyfriend and his mother, and you made each of them a series of loans. His mother at some point told you to leave the house. You left. You want your money. Each of the defendants say that they owe you nothing. This money that you gave Miss Neri was for expenses, your expenses while you lived in the house. And her son James says anything that you gave him were gifts because he took care of certain things for you. When did you move in with Miss Neri and her son?
In June of 2004.
And what were you doing at the time?
At the time, I was working for Forever 21.
Now tell me about the first loan you made to Mrs. Neri.
The loan I had made to Mrs. Neri was for $2,000. She said she had needed it for the down payment on the house that we were going to move into. She stated that she had asked her dad to borrow the money, and he had said no, and that I was the last resort, and if I couldn't loan her the money, we would have nowhere to live.
Where had you been living?
I had been living with them in an apartment.
So you all wanted to move someplace else together. Did you sign a lease?
Yes, I did.
On the new place?
On the new place, yes. I was told that I was not going to be a renter on the house, and that the only reason why I needed to sign the paperwork was because I was over 18.
You have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Well, the three of you were clearly on the lease, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, you read this document, didn't you?
I didn't read the whole thing, no.
Why not?
Because she said she needed it signed, and so she stated that.
Miss Ellsworth, you go to school?
Yes.
What school do you go to?
Bakersfield College.
I assume that at least in your spare time when you were younger, you watched a little television?
Yes, I do.
You watched enough courtroom television to know that you're not supposed to sign something that you don't read?
Yes.
So let's not play with each other. So you signed it.
Yes.
And you should have read it. And if you didn't read it, that's not my problem.
Yeah. I did pay rent on the house.
Until you were evicted?
Yes, pretty much.
How much was security and the deposit on this apartment?
I believe, I think altogether was like $1,800. I'm not quite sure.
$1,850.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that money from?
From her, because the reason why we had to move from the apartment, because I was at the apartment for over a year already. I came home one day from work, and she was living in my apartment. I told my son, look, this cannot work. You know, I don't want her living here. You know, she has a home. She told me she had nowhere to go because her mom was an abusive mother. So, you know, I kind of felt sorry for her. So the next thing I knew, her dog Louie, she has a little dog Louie, he was tearing up the curtains and everything. So I'm a single mommy. I couldn't just come up with that money just to move. So, you know, I had no choice. I asked my dad, and my dad goes, well, it's your fault. You should have never let her move in. You know, why you have to move? Because the reason why we had to move, because she wasn't on the lease. It was breach of contract, they said.
I can understand if you're moving in together, she's on a lease, she should pay a third of $1,850.
Okay, we moved in that home after we got kicked out of the apartment.
Listen to me. You don't have to get kicked out of the apartment. All you have to do is put the two of them out. And you can stay.
Right.
Well, he's not going anywhere without her. You could stay. Put them out.
No, she said we had to move.
Listen to me. $1,850. Only a third of that. She's on the lease. Only a third of that is hers.
Right.
Why did you throw her out?
I didn't throw her out. She was there. Her and my son were always arguing. It got to the point where I'd come out of work and I didn't want to go home anymore. She was possessive with my son, very possessive with my son.
Did you tell her to leave?
He got upset because I came home one day, the place was dirty. I figured if I'm working, in their home, they should at least have the place clean. We got in an argument. My son heard me say, me and my son were arguing. She got up and she left. I didn't verbally say, oh, Aubrey, you have to leave.
She had told me all the time that I had brought sin into her house and that I was bringing chaos and that she didn't want me living there. Her son told me numerous times, I don't have to leave, it's you that has to leave. My mom doesn't want you living here. She threatened to kick him out all the time. She threatened to kick me out all the time just to have, in my opinion, a control.
What?
First of all, my mom never kicked her out. Me and Aubrey used to argue a lot. Yeah, we did.
So it's a good thing she left, right?
No, I don't know if it's a good thing.
Listen to what I said. Stop thinking about what you're going to say next and start listening to my question. So it's a good thing that she left?
Yes.
For the sake
Stop.
of argument,
I'm speaking to you.
Hey.
Yeah, give him a good one. Okay. So it's a good thing that she left?
Yes, but she wasn't told to leave.
No, it came to her by mental telepathy, like Karnak, you know. You wanted her to leave, and your mother wanted her to leave.
Honestly, no, I didn't want her to leave. Honestly,
He
I
didn't.
didn't.
He was upset and crying. I didn't ask her to leave because she was still on the lease. It was up to, like, I think March. She left on her own. She came out storming, and she left on her own. That's the honest
All right, you got $1,850, Miss Ellsworth. That she has to give you back. I don't believe. How old are you?
In my 30s, late 30s.
30, in my 30s, late 30s.
Yeah.
What kind of an answer is that? How old are you?
39.
She's 18. You're 21 years her senior. She
Right.
doesn't support you. You take care of her. All right. Don't go into little things with me. I'm not interested in little things. What does he owe you for?
He owes me for his truck. I helped him fix his truck. I got him a new tire, which was $76. And then I had helped him fix his truck because he had gotten rear-ended February of 2004. He could not...
February of 2004?
Yes.
Where were you for the last year?
I've been trying to collect it. We didn't get the truck, though, starting to fix until September.
Does that make sense to you?
She didn't give me all the money.
What did she give you?
I paid her half of the money back.
What did she give you is my question.
All she gave me was $150 because I paid $150 of it back to her, so it totaled out to $300. And with my $150 coming back to her, it canceled out. And then I went and paid a couple months of rent for her that she didn't pick up on. And this whole thing, we both assumed that we were just going to break it off even like that. Because, like, I mean, we were living together, and it's like, then when we break up, she goes, oh, well, now you owe me for this, and you owe me for that.
Do you want to know something, Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah.
I agree with you. How's that?
I mean, like,
I agree with you.
I honestly believe if we were still together...
Just a second. Give it to him good.
I honestly...
Give it to him good. Miss
I
Neary.
honestly...
Miss Neary. Good. Give it to him good. Because he doesn't get it. I just said I agree with you.
Okay.
Stop. No more.
Listen to your mother.
Can I just add one last thing then?
Why do you want to add something? I just said I agree with you.
All
You want to tell her you love her? You want to get married? You want to propose to her here?
No, I already have
Then
another
just listen to your mother.
girlfriend.
Your mother's telling you to shut up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It wasn't my
Ex-boyfriend and his mother owe her money. James Sanchez and Joanne Neri claim Aubrey is controlling and possessive.
When you're in a relationship and you have $100 here and $76 there and $40 there and $50 there, courts don't want to get involved with that if the relationship doesn't work out.
It wasn't my truck.
I don't care whose truck it was. It wasn't my truck.
You drove it.
It was a truck that
Like
you
it was
at least
yours?
rode in. That's what you do when people live together.
Not when it gets impounded. He got it impounded.
Listen, Miss
You didn't
Ellsworth.
have a car for a while, and I was
Mr.
driving
Sanchez,
you working
you
back.
want me to? You want your mother to slap you upside the head?
No.
She's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Next time he opens his mouth, Miss Neary, give it to him good. You don't have a lawsuit against Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez and you live together in a monogamous, physical relationship, and I'm certain that during the time that you lived together, you went out to eat, he paid, sometimes you paid, other times you went to a movie, you went to a fair, you went out, he bought you a Frankfurter, he bought you a cup of coffee, you bought him,
I wish
whatever
it were
it
like
is.
that.
Whatever
It's
it is.
hard to be like that if you're as jealous as you are. If you weren't so jealous, it could have been better.
No, no, no.
I-
Order!
I have a restraining order on him.
Order!
so-
Judgment for the
Aubrey,
plaintiff,
there's a
that is
court-
Miss Neary, in the amount of $1,850. Your lawsuit with regard to Mr. Sanchez is dismissed. That's all.
How does that Susan to step out?
He became violent with me, and he started stalking me, following me, going to my job.
As far as harassing and stalking, she was the one writing me letters all day in class and following me and my new girlfriend outside of school.
He wanted to marry me. He wanted to be with me. It became an obsession that became violent.
Versus Falk. Step forward, please.
20-year-old physical therapy technician Levita Richter is suing her former friend, 21-year-old caregiver Adriana Falk, for bail money, a loan to get her car fixed, and the cost of a bridesmaid's dress.
Miss Richter, you and the defendant had been friends, according to the complaint that I read.
Yes, Your Honor.
And there was a point when she was in some difficulty. Did she come to live with you at that point?
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
When was that?
About October.
2004?
Yes.
Who were you living with?
My fiance.
Who's now your husband?
Yes.
Is that him?
No.
Who was this?
This is my witness.
According to you, there are 2 loans outstanding. And in addition to the 2 loans, you claim that Miss Falk owes you for this bridesmaid's dress. I assume that this is the bridesmaid's dress. She was an attendant at your wedding. They were supposed to pay for their own dresses. You claim she did not pay for hers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Falk says that both of those times when you gave her the money, it was a gift, and the bridesmaid's dress she says she paid for even though you still have it.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you go to live with Miss Richter and her fiancé, Miss Falk?
I was having some problems with my mother and needed to get out of the situation that I was in.
And when was the first time that she gave you money?
When this guy right over here got me into trouble at my employment, I was taken to jail because of him and his roommates and what they had asked me to do for them. And
well, why don't you explain that to me further?
Okay, I was working at Colusa Casino in Colusa County. And
Where is that?
Part of Northern California.
Go ahead.
Me and Mr. Weiser had started dating, and him and his roommates knew obviously that I worked at a casino and asked me if I could possibly give them players cards with instant rewards on them, which is like a credit, and they can go in the casino and play. Well, I told them a number of times I didn't want to do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Now I'm being charged for all 4 of those gentlemen and what they asked me to do.
Just a second. So they asked you to get them these cards, and you said no. So how could you be charged with anything?
Because I did it anyways.
Oh, so you did it. You did something illegal.
Yes, ma'am.
Levita Richter says former friend Adriana Falk owes for bail money, a loan to have her car fixed, and the cost of a bridesmaid's dress.
Explain to me how you did something illegal.
I would go in and add the instant rewards to the cards. That gentleman right there would come in and play his, not only, and all 4 of
I
his
don't
roommates'
understand the
cards.
instant rewards. What does that mean?
It's just like a credit you can go in and play on slot machines. You can't cash it out. The only thing you cash out is what you win, but you cannot cash out anything on that card.
But you can't play with it.
Yeah.
And you knew you were doing, in effect, you were stealing from the casino.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nobody forces you to steal, madam. That's
Well,
not
this
anybody.
gentleman here did.
No, he didn't. No, Miss Falk. That's not true. If I asked Bird to falsify a document for me, and I've known him for a very long time, 25 years?
At least.
At least. I guarantee you he would not do it for me. And he likes me. And if I asked somebody that I cared about to do something illegal, I would not be angry if they said, no, that's illegal.
Well, they were when I said no.
So then what you say to somebody who's asking you to do something wrong is, I'm sorry, you can be angry, and if you want to not see me anymore, you don't see me anymore. If you want to not be my friend, you don't want to be my boyfriend, whatever it is. But you don't blame somebody else for you're doing something criminal.
There are charges pending on them, but I don't know what they are yet.
Are there charges pending against you?
Yes, there is.
For what?
For second-degree burglary, and it's burglary in the second degree, and then the grand theft as well.
Oh, well, I'm not going to ask you any questions about that because those matters are pending. I'm sorry. You represented by an attorney with regard to that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stupid. Anyway, you got into trouble and she bailed you out?
Yeah. He was on his way home, and he called her and asked her to bail me out of jail.
Who asked her?
I had called Mr. Weiser and told him that I was in jail because he knew that I was security officers at the casino that morning. Then I ended up being arrested after about an hour or two of questioning. I was taken into custody and arrested, and I called him. He was the first person that I was able to call, and he called her and asked her to bail me out.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Who called?
The bail bond gentleman called me at work.
Oh, but she didn't call you.
I spoke to her, and she asked me to come bail her out.
When? You said the bail bondsman called.
I talked to her after the bail bonds gentleman called, and I was allowed to talk to her. And she was crying. She said, please come get me out of this place.
You went there and you bailed her out?
Yes.
What arrangements did you make for her to pay you back?
She was to pay me back. She had promised me that she would pay me back because I wasn't just going to give it to her. I was getting married in a few months, and I didn't have that money to spare.
Well, I want to know what conversation did you have with her with regard to paying you back?
Don't
tell me what she understood.
She
Ms.
just
Richter.
said, I promise that I'll pay you back. I thank you for bailing me out.
When did she say that to you?
In front of the bail bond gentleman, when we were signing these papers.
Let me see the papers. Okay, what was the next amount of money?
It was the $500 that I loaned her to have her car fixed.
Okay, let me hear.
She was driving a Geo Metro. It needed some repairs. It was $1,000 to have it fixed. Matt was my witness. He was going to pay half, and I was going to pay the other half. I wrote him a check. He deposited it into his bank account, and he
well,
used
just
his
a
credit
second.
card.
Why were you going to pay half? I don't hear what.
She didn't have the money to pay it, and it needed to be fixed, or else she wouldn't be able to drive back and forth to work.
Well, when did you have that discussion with her, Miss Richter?
It was
on the phone while I was at Winco.
It was not on the phone. She was in my...
Just a minute. Where was it?
I was at Winco with Mr. Weiser at the time, and she called me and told me that her and her husband now were going to loan me the $500.
No, just a second. She said she and her husband were going to loan you the $500. Perfect. And she did. So why don't you have to pay her back?
She had me arrested.
What did she have you arrested for?
Charges on credit card fraud.
And that's another thing that's pending against you? I don't want to hear about it. So she's alleging that you took money from her credit cards. And she called and had you arrested. Sounds right to me. $815 so far. Now let's hear about the bridesmaid's dress.
Bridesmaid's dress, I was get married March. She was my maid of honor. I have a list of the other two ladies that were my bridesmaids. They knew they were all to pay for the dress. If they did not pay for the dress, they were to not be in the wedding. Being she was my supposed best friend living with me, I assumed that she would pay me back for it.
Don't assume anything.
That's my fault.
That's your fault is right. It's a very nice dress. I hope you can wear it. You don't assume anything. After she didn't have $315, which she didn't give you back for the bail bondsman, and $500 she didn't have for her car, really $1,000 she didn't have for her car, how you could legitimately expect her to pay for a dress, expect her to pay for a dress, is something I quite frankly don't understand. So it looks like a very nice dress. It's yours. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $850.
Matter of Enum versus Hamlin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Mr. Enum?
18.
And you?
21.
You have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
1 and 3. I mean 4.
And Mr. Enum is not the father of either of those children?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Enum.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the complaint that you filed in this case, you frequently decided to lease a house with her. Both of you signed your names to the lease. She moved in, subsequently moved out with her 2 children. You want her responsible for her half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Correct.
Ms. Hamlin says that you are a violent, vicious person, that you abused her and her children.
There's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a minute. And she is counterclaiming. That's what the case is about. All right. When did you sign this lease?
January 18, 2005.
And when did she move out?
May 28, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving out.
She moved out in April.
Why did she move out? You don't know. Why did you move out?
I moved out because he was abusive to me and my children. He would hit my daughter, spank her when she would cry, give her bruises. He would hit my son when he would do something wrong. He just really abused me, and that's why I moved out. So
I didn't ask you for any
Yes,
information,
ma'am.
sir. Are you still living in the house?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Do you plan on staying in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
No, ma'am.
Plan on getting one?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't want to go through the same thing again.
So you can afford the rent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get any child support for your children?
I do, Your Honor, but I do not receive it.
You mean there's an order for child support?
Yes, but I do not receive it.
Why not?
The dad's not working, and he's just not responsible.
Do you get any other assistance for your children?
Nope. Just me working, that's it.
Did the children visit your family?
Yes, they do.
You know her family, I assume. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How are you related to her?
I reside with Michelle's mother. We've been together for 7 years, and I can testify of an harassment at Michelle's place of employment on one occasion.
What's your name?
My name is Jeffrey Bell, Your Honor.
Mr. Bell, do you remember the date of the alleged harassment?
It was shortly after Eric damaged
Give me a month.
May 2005. Sorry about that.
And tell me what you observed in May of 2005.
I witnessed Eric and two young ladies at Michelle's restaurant. After they had their meal, I watched Eric have his arm around this young lady. I considered it taunting Michelle at work. After they were close to the door, the two young ladies started arguing with the hostess and manager, stating that poor service, they want the manager's telephone number. I got up from my seat. I approached Eric right at the door.
Now, Mr. Bell, don't talk to him.
Yes, ma'am. And I did walk up to him and told Eric that I'm sure that you have some things to work out with Michelle, but please be cool. I shook his hand like a gentleman, and the next thing we know, the car's being vandalized, and if I knew that those children were abused...
Just a second, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
If you knew that the children were abused, what would you do?
I would have wrung his neck.
What about her?
I would have taken care of her, too.
What about her, Mr. Bell? She's the mother. I read.
I love her, Your
Just
Honor.
a second.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
may love her.
Yes, I do.
But I read her complaint, and I'm not so interested in this half rent that Mr. Enman wants her to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because right now he's living in the house, and if he wants to get a roommate, he can do it. He told me a moment ago he has no interest in doing that because he can afford the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to stay there. So I'm not so interested in his complaint. I'm interested in her answer and her counterclaim. So I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody, if you believe any of this was going on,
Yes.
and I'm not so sure.
Okay. May I explain just one
No,
more
don't
point, please?
explain anything yet, because I'm going to get to some dates.
Yes, ma'am.
Your girlfriend's daughter, that's who this is, your girlfriend's daughter,
Yes, ma'am.
March of 2005, he was fired from his job. Is that true?
No, I quit.
You quit your job?
Correct.
Whatever, fired. When he came home, we started to argue about money. He walked away from me and got into his car. So far, okay? They were arguing. He got into his car to leave.
Yes.
Prior to that, a few weeks after they had moved in together, so in February, they had a fight, according to her. He punched me repeatedly in the head, slapped me in my legs as hard as he could. I attempted to get away and ran outside, but he dragged me back into the house and continued to beat me. This was all in front of the children. This is what she says.
Yes, Your Honor.
All in front of the children. I pleaded with him to stop, and he finally left. A few weeks later, in March, evidently they're still together. All the while, he's abusing her children and abusing her, beating her, none of which you saw any evidence of, by the way. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then in March, he was, according to her, fired from his job. He came home, they started to fight. He walked away to get into his car. So he walked away. Now, this is somebody that has beat her, dragged her into the house, punched her. So instead of saying, oh, he's leaving, I can get my stuff and my children and get out of here, right? Let's see what she does. Want to know what she says she does?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I followed him to finish talking. I knocked on his window to get his attention. You find that odd, Mr. Bell?
At this point, yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. He jumped out of the car and he hit me. I ran into the house and locked myself in our bedroom with my children. When I wouldn't let him in, he kicked down the door and threw me on the bed and continued hitting me. Just a second, are you getting mad at him?
Yes.
I don't believe her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I had bought him a...
Ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin owes for breaking a lease and an unpaid loan. Michelle is countersuing for vandalism to her car and punitive damages.
Now, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who has family at home. You look like a very nice man. You live in the same town?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who has a mother who's clearly close to her. You have somebody who stands in what we call in French, in loco parentis, like a father to her, because you say you love her, who she can go to. So according to her, he beats her up. You don't see any evidence of that. I assume you see her regularly.
Yes.
Right? She's still with him.
Yes.
They have another fight, but he leaves. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't touch her. She runs out of the house after him because she's not finished talking. Doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you, sir?
Well, young people act a little differently, but to me, no, Your Honor.
All right. And we're still talking March.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't leave in March.
No, she did not.
When did you leave?
Like the middle of April.
Your counterclaim says on April 29th, in a fit of rage, he came to my job and saw me talking to one of my coworkers. But according to you, he had your daughter in the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was he doing with your daughter in the car?
He was taking care of her while I was at work.
Right. And he took care of both of your children while you were at work.
He picked them up from the daycare. He chose to pick them up from daycare.
How often did he pick them up from daycare?
Mostly every day.
So after, according to you, he's been abusing your children since February, March, April. You allow him, unsupervised, to go and pick up your children? You understand me, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I see your point, Your Honor.
Something doesn't ring true, Mr. Bell.
Up to this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's the testimony so far. I'm practically finished with the complaint and the answer. I mean, I don't have voluminous papers here. I have somebody who says that he abuses her children, that he spanks her infant, spanked her so hard it would leave bruises, and yet she allows him to be with her children unsupervised. If I believe it's true, she's as guilty as he is. She's the mother. They're her children.
Yes.
Her job is to protect those children. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
You chose, as a baby, to have two children with somebody who is totally irresponsible, who doesn't take care of his children, and then according to you, and I'm questioning the truthfulness of what you say, you hook up with somebody who beats your children, and you stay with them.
He beat your children, you tell her. He beat your children.
Go ahead.
He beat my children, and I was scared to leave in the first place because I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
Like in March.
Just a second. You told me that the first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March? I'll get to you in a second. Why would you buy him a shotgun in March?
Because he wanted it to have protection from the kid's father.
Mr. Bell, don't buy everything that she's telling you, sir.
May I speak just for a couple words, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I know that there's been numerous complaints against Michelle's children's first father with Eric and Michelle when they first got together. Numerous
harassments
over telephone, verbal assaults.
You mean by the father of these two children?
Yes, and they were both in fear from the beginning.
Just a minute. Did she confide that in you, sir?
Oh, yes.
That the father of her two children was harassing?
Yes.
Threatening?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you that he was?
No.
Right. Now I'll hear you. Because I know if I don't get you up here, we may have an accident. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Anna, and one of
Anna, you have a last name.
Arredondo.
Arredondo?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
On May 22nd of 2005, Michelle had came over to discuss some things with Eric, and
how do you know these two people?
I know these. I had met Michelle prior because they came over to my home, and I met her kids.
Just a second. So you're his friend?
Yes, I'm his. I've known him for 6 years.
Okay. So now you're going to tell me about something that happened in May.
Yes, in May, on May 22nd, 2005, Michelle came over to Eric's home, and I was heading towards the kitchen, and I overheard her tell Eric.
Just 1 second. May 22nd, you went to his house?
Yes, sir.
Did you go with the police?
No, I went with a friend.
What did you go there to discuss?
Discuss about my stuff in the house still.
Discuss your property?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about somebody who beats you, beats your children, and you, without police protection, voluntarily went to his house.
Yes.
You got where I'm going, Mr. Bell?
I do, Your Honor.
Good. And what happened, Miss Arredondo? What did you hear?
I heard her, and I quote, if you take me to court, I'm just going to lie and tell the judge that you hit me. And Eric said, go ahead, she's just going to see that you're lying. So that's all I can witness.
That's a lie. That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't think so.
Eric Enham claims Ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin broke their apartment lease and failed to repay his loan.
All I can do is look at conduct. According to you, you entered into an abusive relationship with someone with whom you had 2 children. Then you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he started to abuse you as soon as you signed the lease in this house together. Seriously abusing you, beating, punching, hitting, kicking, but also did the same thing to your 2 infant children. And you continued to live with him. And when you had another fight, he wanted to leave the house, you followed him outside. And then he beat you again. And then you still continued to live with him and allowed your children to live with him. And not only did you allow your children to live with him, but you allowed him unsupervised care of your children. He was the caretaker of your children while you were working. Now, when for the first time did you report his abusive conduct to you and your children to the police?
I never reported it.
Why not?
Because I was scared if I did report it, that he would do something else.
Your Honor, we haven't got to the part where he was driving recklessly with a child in the back of the car, doing donuts in a parking lot at her work.
Did you see that, Mr. Bell?
Myself, no.
So I just asked you if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edmonds says that he had the child in the car, and he went to get her because why?
Because she said she was going to a party that night and going to leave me with the kids.
And what did you say to her?
So let her know you're not, you need to be home with your kids.
And she said?
She said, no, I'm not. I'm taking my kids. I'm going out.
I'm taking my kids and I'm going out.
Correct.
So what did you do?
I went to her work.
And you saw her doing what?
Being all over.
Listen to me. Go ahead.
I saw her being all over 2 other guys in the parking lot.
So you got mad?
Correct.
Were you driving around in a reckless manner in the parking lot
No,
with
ma'am.
the child in the car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I told her to get in the car and go home. And when we got to our place of residence, I pulled in the garage, and the police came right behind us.
Because she had called the police?
Correct.
Had you called him that day to tell him you were going out?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you tell him you were going to be home?
Probably
Don't look down there. When did you tell him you were going to be home?
like about 12 or 1.
In the morning?
Yeah.
And who was supposed to watch the children until 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning?
I told him that I was going to go to a friend's house and watch a movie, and that I would come and pick up my daughter and take her with me. He told me that...
Just a second. Where was your other child?
My other child was with his dad.
When did the other child go with his father?
In the morning time.
This is the same father who you were afraid of and you bought him a shotgun to protect the 2 of you from?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot of... Her judgment is impaired. Do you understand? You don't get it. Her judgment is impaired.
She's young, and I watched her mature from a teenager to a very good mother. And she is a very good mother, Your Honor.
Impossible! Impossible if I believe what she wrote in her answer, Mr. Bell. Impossible if I believe her that she allowed her children to be in a circumstance with this man who abused her children. That makes her the worst possible mother. The worst possible mother. To sit there and watch a stranger to the children, she says, beat her baby with bruises, and you're telling me matured into a very good mother? Your judgment is impaired.
I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that love is blind. It may be
Love may be blind, and there are women who stay in abusive relationships. She clearly is one of those people who stayed, at least in her first relationship, which was abusive, although she continues to have the lunatic that she described to me before that required protection by a shotgun. She allowed that person to take her infant child. Impaired judgment. And I don't believe her. I don't believe that she was the victim of the kind of abuse she ascribes to the plaintiff. She filed not one police report. You saw no evidence of abuse on either her or her children. She didn't even file a police report after she moved. As a matter of fact, after she moved out and she was free and clear of this horrendous person who beat her and her children, she went back to his house. Is that the action of somebody who's afraid? Okay. Listen to me, sir. You get not a dime from her. You're living in a house. You're happy living there. What you are required to do in this kind of circumstance is to mitigate your damages, which means you put an ad in the internet, you put an ad in the local paper for a roommate. You chose not to do that. That's wonderful. You can afford it. Live there. I don't believe your allegations with regard to your counterclaim, madam. And I think that you have to. If you made 2 children, you better get smart. Because if on the long shot that anything that you say here was true, you have so far made 2 very poor choices. And you have a responsibility to your 2 children to choose more wisely with regard to mates that you select, or else make up your mind that you're not going to have a mate for a while and you're going to rely on this gentleman and your mother as family to help raise your children.
and grow up. Stand up with your mother, please. That is your last name?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell, you own a car that your daughter drives. Is that right?
My husband and I did purchase the car for my daughter as her 18th birthday present. We rolled the title over into her name.
When?
On March 7th.
Very good. You can have a seat, please. All right, Miss Mitchell, you're in charge. Your complaint alleges that Mr. Sullivan vandalized your car.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint alleges that he vandalized your car because he thought that you had vandalized somebody else's car.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Sullivan, in his answer, and smile, Mr. Sullivan, doesn't say he didn't vandalize your car. He says you can't prove he vandalized your car and some other things that I found of interest that I'm going to inquire of in a moment. What's your name?
Holly Fallon.
Now, Mr. Sullivan, did a friend of yours have their car vandalized?
Yes.
When?
It was outside of my residence at the time.
No. A when means a time.
Oh,
a
I'm
where
sorry.
means a place.
I don't know the exact date.
Was your friend's car vandalized on the same date that Miss Mitchell's car was vandalized?
I believe so. If,
Good.
If
So
nothing
you can
else.
give me the date.
August 13th, 2005.
Now, let us assume, Mr. Sullivan, that these two instances happened on the same date. Tell me about the vandalizing of your friend's car. First of all, which friend was it?
Karen.
Karen.
I don't know the specifics of it. I know she walked out of my house to go home for the night. She came back to the front door and was knocking frantically. My front windshield's broken. I need to use the phone right now. Came in for 2 or 3 minutes.
Were you at a party?
No, it wasn't a party. It was pretty late at night. We had 2 or 3 people over.
Was Miss Mitchell there?
No.
Did you know Miss Mitchell prior to August 13th?
Yeah.
How did you know her, sir?
Mutual friends lived in the same neighborhood. It's kind of a small neighborhood.
Now, do you know Karen, this Karen person?
Yes.
I have to preface my questions by telling you that I'm like a truth machine. There are a lot of things that I can't do. I can't cook. I can't work a computer. I can't bicycle uphill. A lot of things that I can't do. You know, I can't play basketball. But I do know when somebody's not telling the truth. And nothing irritates me more. So the fact that you may or may not have vandalized Karen's car is not particularly germane to this case, but when I ask you the question, you're going to tell me the truth. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Sullivan, you don't need the water yet, Mr. Sullivan. Relax. So Karen came in and told you that her windshield was busted out and had to make a phone call. What happened next, Mr. Sullivan?
She left for the night. I spoke with Karen the next day. She told me that the police had come to her house that day and said, Heidi told us that you broke.
Karen had broken Heidi's window.
Right, and they were there to pick her up for questioning.
So they came to arrest your friend who had had her windshield busted out the night before.
She would not leave her house. She was standing behind her mom. Her mom said, if you have any questions, you can say it right here. Karen didn't go outside of the house.
That's not true.
And they didn't have enough reason to take her out of the house.
Miss Mitchell, your car was vandalized on the 13th.
Correct.
Where had it been parked?
In my driveway.
Now, how do you know Karen?
We had gone to school together.
Did you like her?
I used to. We used to be friends. And then
But then you had a falling out?
Correct.
When?
About a year ago.
Did anything particularly devastating happen around the 13th of August between you and Karen?
No.
Did you vandalize her car?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so your car is parked in the driveway on the 13th of August.
Correct.
And tell me what happened.
It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was getting ready to go to bed because I had to go to work the next morning at 10 o'clock.
Where had you been?
I had been at work that previous night and at home.
What time do you get home from work?
10 o'clock.
What were you doing up until 2 o'clock in the morning?
Just hanging out, doing laundry, cleaning the house. My parents were out of town at the time.
Any visitors?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
My brother was upstairs sleeping.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was hanging out my window, actually, smoking a cigarette because I didn't want the smoke to get into my room because my parents would get pretty mad about that. And my window, my bedroom window, looks out onto my driveway. So I was sitting there smoking a cigarette. I see Chris run up with a landscaping block and throw it into my windshield. After he threw it into my windshield, he picked it up again and threw it through my front passenger window.
You mean he went into your car and got it out?
No. After it had bounced off of the windshield, it was on the ground, and he picked it up again and threw it through my passenger window.
And then what did he do?
He ran off, got into his friend's car, and they left.
What kind of car was the friend's car?
A brown Taurus.
You know who owns a brown Taurus, Mr. Sullivan?
I know a few people.
Well, why don't you give me their names?
Who she told the police it was Patricia.
Patricia is your roommate?
She was a girlfriend at the time.
Well, so that would be close. And Patricia has a brown Taurus.
Yeah.
How does Patricia know Karen?
Patricia and Karen, like the same way they know Heidi. They went to the same school, got involved in the same groups of friends.
You made a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Now you can take a sip of water, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you realize, Mr. Sullivan, that you were going to come and...
Former friend Chris Sullivan broke her car window by smashing it with a landscaping brick.
The police came to talk to you, Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, they did.
Do you remember when they came to talk to you?
2 days later, there was the incident that night. The next day, they went and spoke with Karen. Then 2 days later, they came to my house.
Now, I gather from piecing things together from your statement, Mr. Sullivan, that you had valuable information to the police about another crime.
That, you know, it was
Mr.
misquoted
Sullivan,
a little bit.
Mr. Sullivan, just follow my questions.
Okay.
Did you have information for the police about another crime?
Not going in there. To get out, yes, I did have some information.
To get out of what?
The police took me at 8 o'clock in the morning
Right.
to jail for an
Mr.
entire
Sullivan,
day.
Mr. Sullivan, we're not going to have a dance around. Okay. Did you have information for the police about another crime?
Yeah.
Now, the police took you into custody.
Yes.
What was the nature of the other crime, Mr. Sullivan?
Local stuff that they were asking about.
So you gave them that information?
I answered his questions to the best of my ability to get a better situation for myself.
Mr. Sullivan, let's not play with each other, sir.
Okay.
Is what you're telling me that in exchange for your freedom on this charge, you volunteered to the police information about other things that had been going on in the community?
I would have still been free had I not. It wasn't the reason.
Just a second.
The answer to that question is no.
So you mean you gratuitously said to the police, I would have come here anyway to tell you about what's been going on in the neighborhood?
No, not even close.
No, of course. Not even close, Mr. Sullivan?
No.
Because what you did was you waited until you had something to bargain for.
No, not at all. After I sat in a cell for about 10 hours, and he came and said, all right, we're going to go process what we're going to process, that's when that came up.
What do you mean that's when that came up, Mr. Sullivan? I'm not following you, sir.
What part are you not following?
He said, I'm going to take you in to process you now for vandalizing the car.
That's what he said, yeah.
And then you had to say something to him like, hold on a second. I have something that I might want to tell you.
Not at all. He
well,
said,
did he ever process you, sir?
He told me that it could get better or worse depending on how you treat us with respect, and, you know, answer our questions. You'll be treated a lot better. So I'm not going to assume the police officer's lying to me.
Can I see the estimates on the car, please? Sure. Thank you. So it's suffice it to say, Mr. Sullivan, they did not arrest you, or
Right.
they voided the arrest on this charge.
There was not enough evidence.
That's not what I asked you. There is enough evidence. There's an eyewitness.
Okay, there was an eyewitness that Karen did it the day before, and when they couldn't take Karen to the police station, then the witness decided that I did it.
I don't see that here, sir, at all. I see her naming you,
There
not
wasn't
Karen.
there wasn't a police report made up on Karen because they didn't take Karen to the
Let
station.
me tell you something, sir. There is nothing in the law that says if you hide behind your mother, the police can't arrest you.
I totally believe that,
Right.
yeah.
And do you have a complaint that she signed naming this other girl as the perpetrator?
No, she
No,
never
no, no,
signed
no,
a
no, no,
complaint.
no, 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 no.
If I wouldn't have walked out of my door when the police came to my door, they could not have arrested me that day.
Yes, they could have, sir. They could have arrested you, but not that day.
He specifically
cannot-
told me that.
Mr. Sullivan, listen to me. Sir, I want you to be very clear on this.
Okay.
Whose information is more quality information?
Oh, I
Listen
completely
to me,
agree
sir.
with, right,
Cop, judge.
right.
What do you think?
Well,
Because, Mr. Sullivan, if you use your logic, all a murderer has to do is to stay behind his door.
if the murderer has evidence against him, then they will come in his door and get the murderer. If they think, Joe might have murdered somebody, they go ask him questions.
What do you do for a living?
I don't see how that's relevant at all.
What do you do for
I'm
a living?
a landscaper.
You're a landscaper.
Yes.
You use landscaping blocks?
We use everything that landscaping uses.
You ever been arrested, Mr. Sullivan?
I have,
Is not an answer.
I have, yes.
Other than this arrest, have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
A couple of days before the payment was due, Allison called me. Don't make the payment. I'm going to get my...
Heidi Mischel says her former friend, Chris Sullivan, broke her car window by smashing it with a cinder block.
Go ahead.
The fact that the landscaping brick was used has no relevance to me being a landscaper. I lived in an apartment we had no storage what
Did you realize, Mr. Sullivan, that you were going to come and tell this baloney story in front of 10
What
million
I
people? I'm
realized-
speaking! In front of 10 million people. Just answer my question, either a yes or a no. Did you realize
Yes.
you were going to come and tell this baloney story in front of 10 million
sure
people?
did.
And did you practice your answers
No,
before
I
you
didn't
came
need
here?
to.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $345. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
First of all, I never mentioned Karen.
Moffat, step forward.
20-year-old Allison Quist is suing her ex-friend's fiancé, 29-year-old Jason Moffat, for a loan to buy an engagement ring.
Oh, Mr. Moffat. Miss Quist was a friend of yours and a friend of your fiancé's.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a little bit of a tiff with your fiancé. Is this your fiancé?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you sort of got back together again. So you wanted to buy your fiancé, whose name is?
Chantel.
The lovely Chantel. You wanted to buy her a ring.
Yes, ma'am.
The only problem is you had no money and you had no credit. So you discussed with Miss Quist if she would put this ring on her credit card and you would make the payments to her. The ring is where, Chantel?
Right here.
May I see it, please? Beautiful. Do you still wear it?
Yes, I do.
Why did you hesitate?
Because I don't wear it to work.
But you wear it.
Yeah, I wear it.
To the lovely Chantel. Well, you made payments on the ring for a while. The ring cost how much, Mr. Moffat?
I'm not sure the exact amount was.
$924.
How much is left on the ring?
When he stopped paying me, it was $482. Now there is $366.
Because you made payments?
Yes.
And you stopped making payments on the ring, and Miss Quist would like her money. And you're going to explain to me, Mr. Moffat, why she's not entitled to her money because you say she broke a contract with you.
First of all, Your Honor, I did not have money. I did not have credit. Allison
That's
was...
what I just said. You
Yeah.
didn't have money and you didn't
No,
have credit.
I did. That's not the case. The case is...
So you had money and you had credit.
Yeah, the case...
Just a minute. So you had money and you had credit. Go ahead.
Allison was a good friend. She was like a sister. When I decided to buy a ring, I asked her to go along with me, and we went into a jewelry store. I filled out for an application for credit there, and they wanted a lot down for that one, too, because my credit is bad.
So just a second. So you had credit, but you had bad credit.
Right. And she says, you know, let's see if I can get it, and you just make the payments for that.
Well, just a second. I said a moment ago you didn't have cash and you didn't have credit. So you didn't have credit. Because if you have bad credit, it's like having no cash. So why would you even want to buy this? Listen to me. Let me finish the sentence. Why would you even buy a ring on credit if you had the cash?
Because I had cash for a down payment. I didn't have the $1,000.
So you didn't have cash?
No, I didn't have the $1,000
All right,
for a
so
ring.
there we go back
I had
to what
enough
we
for a
said
li-
before, which you didn't have cash and you didn't have credit. Why did you stop making the payments?
It was supposed to be a secret. She didn't want Chantel to know she was financing it. I said, okay, I won't tell her either. And even she even lied to Chantel and said, like, surprised that she knew about it
Would
and
you
everything.
do me a favor and get to why you stopped making the payments?
It was a couple days before the payment was due. Allison called me and said, are you going to make the payment? I was like, yeah, I make the payment. I get paid on Friday. Payment's due on Saturday. I'll make the payment. She proceeded to say, look, you don't make the payment, I'm going to get my effing ring back, and it's my effing ring, and proceeded to go on like that. I was like, Allison, it's not even due yet. Why are you doing it? It's not due. Saturday came along when the payment was due. I was like, fine, I'll make the payment. I'm going to go make the payment. She calls me and says, hey, I already made the payment. I tried to explain to her, I've made every payment. I've never been late with her.
Well, when did you give her the payment for August, sir?
I had it whenever she wanted to
I
come
know,
get it.
listen to me. That's not my question. When did you give her the payment for August?
I told her I had it, she could have it. And it just, she went, I mean...
Do you know that a sentence usually has a beginning, a middle, and an end? When did you give her the money for the August payment?
I didn't give her the money for the August payment.
That's a whole sentence. Look at that. I still haven't heard why. She has the ring, she has the bill, you have the excuse. What's the legal reason that you did not give her money for this ring?
We said to keep it a secret. I don't want Chantel to find out. She said it. The Friday the payment was due, she called and left a voicemail on Chantel's phone telling her, your ring is in my name. I want that paid or I'm going to get the ring back.
So what you're
she broke
saying,
the
Mr.
contract.
Moffat, is that because she told your fiancé that the ring was purchased on her credit, she voided the contract.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would mean, sir, that she's entitled to the ring back. And you would be forfeiting whatever money you put into that ring. Is that what you want?
No, it's not what I want.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You did not have a contract with her that said, if you tell the lovely Chantel that the ring was purchased on your credit, I will not make any further payments and I will keep the ring. You said we had an agreement not to tell her about where the money came from. So if you choose not to make any further payments on the ring, I'll just take the ring back and give it to Miss Quist. She can sell it. She can certainly get $500 for it. It costs $1,000. What's your pleasure?
I mean...
Beginning, a middle, and an end. I mean what? It doesn't mean anything, sir. Is that a sentence?
She can have the ring.
Good. Should you give her the ring back?
It's not
Give
worth
her
it
the ring.
anyway.
Give her the ring. Perfect. Miss Quist?
Pay for the ring, man. Pay for
Listen
the
to me.
ring.
Now you have the ring.
Not too bright.
You paid $1,000 for it? What he owed on the ring was $482? Yes. Go sell it. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Look at me, man. Look at me. You here with me? Mm-hmm. Why don't you just...
Because she can have it. It's ruined anyway. It's not worth it. It was spent...
Burdette, step forward.
25-year-old Heather Brown is suing her neighbor, 27-year-old Angelia Burdette, for a shattered aquarium. Heather says Angelia was house-sitting at the time of the incident.
I have a claim and a counterclaim. Your claim, Miss Brown, is that you and Miss Burdette, who were friends and neighbors, I gather from your complaint, you had asked her to come in to take care of your fish tank and your house at some point. When you came back, you found that this large fish tank, which was a saltwater tank, very expensive, was broken, all the fish on the floor dead.
Right.
And the value of that, you say, was close to $5,000.
More than.
Ms. Burdette says that she did come into the house to take care of, I think, your dog. She was walking your dog and left her young son in the house. When she came back, she found the fish tank destroyed, the fish on the floor. Somehow a picture, according to her, fell off the wall all by itself and broke your fish tank. And she didn't clean up the mess, left the dead fish and everything else there, because she said that the week previous to that, or 2 weeks previous to that, she went into the hospital to have a baby, and you were watching her children. You have 2 boys who were very naughty little boys. They destroyed her house while you were supposed to be babysitting for them, and you didn't clean up that mess, so she didn't clean up yours. And she is counterclaiming for the destruction her own children did in her house. That's what the case is about. Let's start with your counterclaim, because that came first. When did you go into the hospital?
I was 7 months pregnant, and they had to stop my labor.
Did they?
Yes.
And how old are your boys?
I have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Do you live with their father?
No, I do not.
Who's the father of this baby?
Warren.
Where does Warren live?
He doesn't live with me either.
Is Warren the father of the 3-year-old and the 9-year-old?
No, my 9-year-old's father died. And
the 3-year-old?
Me and him are just friends. He pays his child support and he takes care of his son.
But when you went into the hospital with regard to this pregnancy, you called Miss Brown to come and help you.
Right, because she was supposed to be my friend and I trusted her.
And she has her own children?
She has 1 child, a 10-year-old.
How long were you in the hospital?
Just 1 night.
What happened when you came home?
I came home to find mascara all over my walls, lip liner, lipstick, syrup poured into my carpet, a highlighter broken into my carpet. My bedroom blinds were tore up.
Who did that?
My 3-year-old, because she was supposed to be watching them, and she was outside.
How do you know it was your 3-year-old?
Because my 9-year-old wouldn't do that.
Was he in school, the 9-year-old?
He should have been.
Was he in school?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was watching the 3-year-old?
I was.
So how come all this mess happened?
It didn't. None of that happened. He did pour syrup on the carpets, and he got it on the upholstery of the couch. I went outside to smoke. I went outside to smoke. I was out there for probably an extended period of time, but as far as I knew, I had checked on him. He was sleeping. I checked on him every 15 minutes for an hour. Some people stopped by. I didn't want to take him into her house. It's not my place. I continued to check on him. When I came back in, he had broken the lock on the fridge. There's like a lock that she ties it. He had broken it, and pretty much a trail from the fridge to the back bedroom of syrup. When she got home, now let me explain the blinds, the stains on the carpet, the smell. Everything is already there.
Just a second. Shh. Miss Burdette, don't say anything. I asked you a question. You answered my questions. Now I'm looking to her.
Heather Brown claims neighbor Angelia Burdette owes for a shattered aquarium. Angelia is countersuing for damage to her home caused by her own kids.
Okay. So what you say is he did get up and he did cause damage to the carpet with the syrup and some of the upholstery.
Right, and I offered to pay for it. I said, look, you know, I was supposed to be watching him. I accept responsibility.
Good.
I will pay for the, you know, to have the people come in and shampoo it. Oh, no, it's fine, she says.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
No, I asked her to help me pay for it. She said she would. And when I went to go collect money, because I had the carpets cleaned right away, she said that she didn't have the money and she doesn't owe me anything.
Okay, just a second. She just said that she offered to pay to have the carpet cleaned. She accepted responsibility. How much did you pay to have the carpet cleaned?
The carpet cleaner, it was only $45 because I went through the company my apartments go through.
Fine.
And I have an income.
Just a second. 1 second. So she's going to pay for $45. Where's $2,076?
Because my son got into the mascara and put it on my walls, and nothing really takes off that mascara. They have to
So what did you do?
They have to strip my walls.
They have to strip your walls?
Yeah, with paint thinner to get the mascara off.
That's not true.
Yeah, Miss Burdett, be a little creative. I feel you're a creative lady. Be creative.
I have the proposal from the paint company right here.
You have pictures of the walls?
Yeah.
Let me see the pictures of the walls.
She's got pictures of a cabinet.
And there's the walls. They don't show in. You have to look very closely at the wall.
Just a minute. Oh, no. He didn't do this. He didn't do that to the blinds. And this is one panel that you're showing me. Looks like a vanity.
Your Honor, there's 12 colors.
Listen to me. Shh. This looks like a panel in a vanity. Is that right?
This is the cupboard before I washed, because I tried to...
Get some white paint and paint it.
White paint won't go over. It'll just go through.
Get some paint thinner and take it off and repaint it. I don't see where $45 becomes $2,076. All right, so you have to give her $45 to shampoo the carpet.
Gladly.
That's what you spent for cleaning the carpet. It was your responsibility.
Absolutely.
When you're supposed to watch a 3-year-old, you watch a 3-year-old. You don't go outside to smoke and watch him every 15 minutes because you're just lucky that he didn't hurt himself. Because that, too, would have been your responsibility. Now let's get to your fish tank. You have pictures of the tank?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to see them, please.
This is before. That's after.
How big was this tank?
It was about 6 1/4, 6 foot, 6.5. It's very big.
You have any of the bills for the tank?
No, it was bought years ago. I have a quote for what it would cost to replace. That's it.
Can I see that, please? How many fish did you have in the tank?
3 or 4. It was actually mostly coral, live coral. Very hard to raise and maintain.
Was it a 135-gallon tank?
No. It was a 70-gallon tank.
Well, then why are you replacing it with a 135-gallon tank?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I told him 70-gallon, and that's what he mailed me.
Then this quote is twice as big as what you had.
Right. Yes, you're right.
Of course. You don't know what happened inside, is that right?
Right. My 9-year-old was...
Shh. All you know was that you went outside and left your 9-year-old inside, unsupervised.
Playing PlayStation.
Unsupervised.
Yeah.
Just like she left your 3-year-old unsupervised.
There's a difference between a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah, 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. That's the difference.
And it's somebody else's house.
Hey, listen. 9-year-old can cause a lot more damage. So what you would have me believe is that when you went outside and left your 9-year-old unsupervised in the house with this attractive nuisance of a huge fish tank with fish in it, a picture which had been hanging on the wall for years, miraculously at that moment, fell off the wall all by itself and broke the fish tank. That is your defense.
That's what my son told me. And
That's your defense.
Yeah.
Well, your son's a liar. If you believe me, you're an idiot. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Ms. Santos, according to your complaint, the defendant drove your car with your permission.
Yes.
Had an accident. You wanted to pay for the damage to your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Allison has some excuse. She has a counterclaim. She says you assaulted her, moved out of an apartment that you were sharing together. You took furniture that didn't belong to you, and you owe her for some utility bill. How long were you roommates?
10 months.
When did this incident happen with your car?
October 25th of 5 at about 11:46 a.m.
And when had you moved in together?
February 1st, 2005, so about 10 months.
When did you move out?
The last day of November, so by December 1st.
Tell me about the accident, Miss Allison. How did you have an accident with her car?
I was in the parking garage of our hotel that we both worked for at the time, and I was in agreement with her that I was to pull the car out to bring it to the front so we could get into the vehicle to take her break and go home. At that time, when I pulled out of the garage, I nicked the back quarter panel and door on the passenger side on a podium that stands very tall in the garage.
So you hit an object that wasn't moving?
Correct.
Clearly then your fault?
Yes, Your Honor.
So then clearly you're responsible to pay for the damage?
Your Honor, yes, I am responsible for the damages due as she is to my eye.
Clearly you're responsible for the damage to her car?
Certainly responsible.
Good. May I see pictures of the damage to your car?
This is the whole car. That's the damage.
That's the whole car. This is the damage.
Yep.
Okay. Whole car damage.
Your Honor, I did suggest that she call the police or make a statement.
Did you get an estimate for fixing the car?
Yes, I got
May I
3.
have it, please? show these to the defendant.
Thank you. Your Honor, may we still ask what time this was taken?
I don't care what time it was taken.
Well, she could have done more damages to the car, Your Honor, because she did not make a file or a complaint at the time. I repeatedly asked.
You told me, madam, that you scratched the quarter panel?
Correct.
How much do you think, based upon your vast experience with cars, it would cost to fix that?
I'm not sure, and I do not fully believe that she did not do more damage to the car following the incident, but I would say about $800, less than $1,000 for sure.
Okay, good. She's only suing you for $700. So that would be a reasonable figure. Now, after the incident happened, you claim she assaulted you. Why don't you tell me about it?
On November the 19th, I called into work, wherein my boss, who is to the right of me here as a witness, I called into work due to being ill with a kidney infection. Melissa came home from work. I was outside, upstairs, where our laundry is, where my brother, who's to the left of me, and another friend of ours who was present at the time, were upstairs of the apartment. I left the back door unlocked, and I left my keys and my cell phone inside of our apartment. Melissa came home because she has psychological problems.
Just tell me what happened.
She came in, dropped all the shades, locked all the doors. She did try to call my cell phone a couple times. She located my cell phone inside the house. So that means she realized that I had to be around. I come downstairs to come back into the house. I'm locked out of my own house. And we called from my brother's phone to inquire with her why she locked the door and if she would please come unlock it. She didn't answer the first call. The second call she did answer. She said she would be there soon. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes later, she shows up fully dressed, hair done, shoes on, to open the door. When very easily she could have slipped on a robe and opened the door for her roommate, who's been her roommate and friend for 10 months. Friend for longer than that. But she chose not to. Verbally, we got in a large argument, and her instability issues and safety and security issues that she feels we have discrepancies over, and she hit me at our front door. As we're arguing, she put her face in my nose, face to face. I've never been that close in contact with anyone. Stepped back and welled me with her right arm in my left eye. Then she went for me a second time, and I pushed her back and told her she was crazy and to remove her hands from me, and that there was no reason for this. That if there is a problem, then we are to address it as roommates and friends and to work it out as responsible people. That there was no reason why she should have locked the door and left me outside of my own house. And yes, I did wreck her car, and I told her I would cover those charges. But when she assaulted me, Your Honor, that was incorrect, and that was not right. May I make another statement? Okay.
I don't see how she lasted 10 months.
I don't either.
Go.
I did come home from her birthday party. I wasn't actually working, and I entered the house, and no one was there. No one was in the front. No one was in the back.
You checked the back room?
Don't speak!
No problem, Your Honor.
I went to the back porch. I didn't see anyone. I called her about, I would say, 3 times. I needed to get in the shower. I was on my way to another birthday party. So, living in a neighborhood we live in, downtown St. Petersburg, where there's lots of bums and so on. I went ahead, locked the door, took a shower. They called me while I was in the shower, so of course I wasn't going to answer. Then I got out, answered, and said I'll be there in a minute. I threw on my clothes, did not have my shoes on, and opened the door, and that's when she went irate on me as she walked in.
Well, tell me what happened.
Then as she came in and started yelling at me, she started telling me she can't live with someone that's so uncomfortable because I have to have the doors locked, and I have to have the shades down when no one's there. And then I went back in my room, got ready. Then I came out to walk out to go to the birthday party, and she just started chasing me and being very hostile and aggressive. Came following me basically all the way to the front door. And then I did push her away from me, and she pushed me back. And then I walked out and I left.
Did you hit her in the eye?
No.
Can I say something? I was there. I was in the house at the time.
I didn't say yes.
And her brother was at the house, but he was not present in the room it happened in.
She says that you hit her in the eye. That you punched her in the eye.
No.
She punched you with a hand or a fist?
It was not a full close punch, Your Honor. It was in between a slap and a fist. She did it quickly.
Just answer my question. I asked you, was it a punch or a slap?
It was neither. It was a cup of a hand, not fully formed into a fist.
Did you take photographs of your injuries?
Actually, I did not.
Did you see a doctor for your injuries?
I did not. I did call the police station. I filed a complaint via the phone, did not file one on paper.
When you filed a police report over the phone, did they tell you to come in and file it in person?
They said I would have had to call day up.
Did you? Did they say you had to come in and file it in person?
No, they did not, Your Honor.
Did you get a copy of the police report that you filed over the phone?
No, Your Honor.
Because you have to go in person and file a police report.
They said they had to come to my home where it happened, Your Honor.
Well, you were home anyway. You were sick. Why didn't you let them come to your house?
I quite honestly did not want to cause more of a scene than what already was caused. I feel for her and her insecurities and her problems that she suffers from.
Get over it.
Get over it?
Yes, get over it.
Well, then she should get over her car injury as well.
No. Listen to me.
She damaged my eye.
Listen to me. If someone punched me in the eye and damaged my eye, my dear, I would have called the police and had them come to the house or gone there to file a report.
Well, I feel for someone who's mentally ill like she is, and I did not want to prosecute her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Where is the...
Former friend Chasey Allison owes for crashing her car in a parking garage. Chasey is countersuing, claiming Melissa punched her in the eye.
If someone hit me and I was home that day anyway, I would have filed a police report. I would have taken a photograph because you say your eye was damaged.
There was no huge marking. It hurt my head. I had a headache for hours upon hours. She did not knock me a fist in the eye and cause a mark on my eye.
All right, $700. Now, when did you move out?
That seemed like a week and a half later.
What furniture did you leave with?
The entertainment center, the couch, the chair, and the coffee table, and a lamp.
What did she take?
Her dresser, her bed, everything that was basically everything else that was hers.
Did you take your bed?
Yes.
Did you take your dresser?
Yes.
All right, well, she took her dresser, you took your dresser. She took her bed, you took your bed. But the things that you purchased jointly, you took.
Mm-hmm. And she can really have them because I'm paying for them to be stored right now as it is. So
you're willing to give them to her if she wants them?
If she wants them, yeah.
You want those things back?
I want the money that we agreed to split. No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
We never agreed, Your Honor.
Listen to me. You have your choice. You get nothing, or you get the furniture. She's willing to give it to you. Do you want the furniture?
No, Your Honor, I do not want the furniture.
Well, that's what you complained about. You said she took the furniture.
I complained that she took my part of the money that we agreed we would sell and split if we moved out.
Well, here you go. You don't even have to bother. She's going to give you all the things. You could sell it. You can keep it all. She doesn't want it. That's even better.
Why
That
did
gives
she
you
take
100%.
it? If she didn't want it, why did she take it?
Because we had
Just a second. I have other things to do today. I still have other cases to hear today. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. She says you want the furniture? Take the furniture and sell it. Keep the whole thing. You just said to me, we had an agreement that we would sell the furniture and split it. She doesn't want to split it. She wants you to take all the furniture so you can sell it.
I'm not going to store the furniture, Your Honor, now that I'm out of that residence. We were to sell it there at that residence.
You don't have to store it. Sell it.
Your Honor, she took our belongings.
Miss Allison.
Can I submit my...
No. Submit nothing. I think what you have to do is you really have to grow up. And I don't know, what kind of work? What kind of work do you do?
I do marketing and promotions for an entertainment event guide.
You have to give us $700 to fix her car. You wanted to take the furniture? You have 5 days to get the furniture. Where is the storage
facility? It's at my mom's location. My mom's house.
So it's not in a storage facility?
No, I'm paying her to store it there.
That's a lot of baloney. You're not paying your mother to store it there. I don't like people who give me baloney. 5 days from today, she is to come with a police escort. You have to have the stuff available to her if she wants it. After that, you can dispose of it. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'll prepare the order. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
While you're excused, you may step out.
Just kind of all boiled down to just one argument.
I think the damages done to her car definitely infuriate.
This is case number 478 on the calendar in the matter of Batista versus Wilson.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Pfizer has been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Batista, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You have one child together, a daughter, and you claim a series of loans to him and some money that he owes you. You claim for living expenses. Mr. Wilson says there were never any loans and never any agreements to pay you any money. Did you have that?
Yes.
From when to when?
February to November.
I gather from your answer, Mr. Wilson, that you were not living in the same town as Ms. Batista was living in initially. Is that right?
That is correct, Your
Where were you living?
I was living in California at the time, the Bay Area.
And where was she living?
She was living in Beaverton, Oregon.
Okay. Tell me what the first loan was for, Ms. Batista.
Well, when he first moved up here in February, he did leave his business, so we had agreed that I would pay for the living expenses or help support him so that he could get his business started up in Portland.
What kind of business are you in, Mr. Wilson?
I own a gardening, tree, and landscape service.
Okay. Go ahead.
But after months of paying all the living expenses and his business wasn't...
He moved in with you?
He moved in with me in February of 2005. I was paying mortgage, food, all the expenses while he was trying to get his landscaping business up. I also bought advertising for his business, equipment, anything to help him get started. A few months went by and nothing, no money, his business wasn't working. So we sat down and discussed a different arrangement because I was going to be on leave without pay when I had the baby.
When did you find out you were pregnant?
I think the end of September, 2004. And I told him that I was using most of my savings just to support him. I was paying even some of his bills, truck payments, including, all of our bills. So I said, when I'm on leave without pay, I'm not going to have any money. I'm using my savings right now. So he agreed during the time when I was on leave without pay, he would pay for our living expenses. He told me at that time if his business was not kicking off, he would get any type of job that was available to be there for us.
Okay, so?
That didn't happen. So I continued to pay the bills, and I ended up having to cash out some Nike stock to, continue. We talked about it again, and he did get a couple jobs, tree jobs, during this time, so that made me hopeful that it was going to continue. But it was nothing you could count on. It was just sporadic, and we argued a lot about him just getting a regular job where there was some consistent income.
But that was an argument that went on for about a year.
It went on for a long time, yeah.
Okay.
So when I went back to work, I ended up taking 2 months of leave without pay. I was going back to work, and then the baby would need daycare. So we sat down again, and at this time, he finally did get a job. And I was making considerably more money than he was. So we decided I would continue to pay the mortgage and all the bills if he could just take care of the daycare. That's all he had to worry about was the daycare. He agreed, and what ended up happening was he worked at his job for, maybe 2 weeks. And it was too hard. It wasn't paying enough. And so he quit. So I ended up paying all the daycare. This was pretty much the last straw for me, so I asked him to move out of the house.
What does he owe you money for?
Well, I believe he owes me money for the time during when I was on leave without pay that he had agreed to take care of the living expenses. I also think he should help me with the daycare bills because that was another arrangement we have. And then I have medical bills from the birth of my daughter, which we had discussed that at the very beginning when I got pregnant, and he said he would absolutely help with that. We were talking about getting married and being together, and I did mention at the time that I had insurance, which, that was a good thing. And so when the bills started coming in, his response to me was, but you told me you had insurance, so why are there bills?
Is this your only child?
No, I have a 14-year-old daughter.
She lives with you?
Yes.
What else does he owe you for, Ms. Batista?
That's pretty much it, except for when I finally asked him to move out of the house, his response to me was, this is my house, I'm not leaving. And A, I don't have the money to get my own place. He's approached the idea of, why don't you give me the money to move out, and then I'll be out. I was told I'd have to take him to court. We were arguing in front of my daughter. If he stayed there, it would cost me even more money, so I just didn't know what to do.
So you gave him how much?
So I gave him $2,000 to move out. I paid for his first month's rent. I also caught up on some of his bills, and he did promise me that since he had started getting a job that he was planning to do, that he would pay me back.
Go.
When we negotiated about me coming out to live with Ms. Batista, she inquired and agreed when we discussed about, family, that she would be paying the bills so that I wouldn't have to worry about those kind of things when I moved out here. Portland.
You mean she was going to support you forever? Is that what you thought?
No. I wasn't going to be supported, but we had already agreed that she would be taking care of the bills till I got on my feet.
Well, that's reasonable. Mr. Wilson, you didn't add that little caveat in there, sir. She would be covering the bills until you got on your feet because you were going to make, okay.
Right.
How old are you?
I'm 43.
How much child support have you paid since June of 2005 when your daughter was born?
Probably about $800 or $900. Maybe close to $1,500. Plus, she owns a house in which I had done landscaping.
I don't care. I read that you did thousands of dollars worth of landscaping. That was good exercise if you weren't doing anything else.
Right. Your Honor, he hasn't paid me child support
I asked you how much money you gave her child support for your daughter.
Probably close to about $1,500.
That is not correct. He hasn't given me a dime.
Is there a court order of support?
No, there's no court order. But
why? Is there no court order of support?
Well, Your Honor, he just moved out, and I haven't gotten to it yet. We were living together, and...
According to you, you moved out almost 3 months ago.
I know. I have the paperwork.
Where do you work now?
I'm an official, and I referee basketball games.
You make a living at that?
Yeah, right now. Basically, I'm up in Oregon. It rains a lot. I wanted to do my landscape services there, which I talked about, as well as my tree service. But it rains a lot, and I can't operate there. That's what I had told her before she agreed.
If it rains so much in Oregon, maybe you picked the wrong place to be a landscaper.
Well, I agreed, we were...
No, listen to me. This is common sense. If you can't make a living in a place because it rains a lot, doing landscaping, why don't you move to someplace where it's nice and green?
Well, Oregon is green. It is very green.
And there are a lot of landscapers up there.
Listen, Mr. Wilson, you have 2 children. You have to support them.
Prior to our union, Your Honor, we had already discussed an arrangement where she would consistently help me get on my feet until that was to take place.
You're 43 years old, sir. When is that going to happen?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sons and daughters.
Mother of her child, Alan Wilson, owes for several unpaid loans. She also claims Alan has a lot of excuses for not paying.
Your agreement with him was that you were going to take care of the bills until he got on his feet.
Until he got on his feet.
Well, Ms. Batista, I have zero sympathy for your financial situation up until November of 2005. You advanced Mr. Wilson money with the expectation that you were going to have a life together with him. You gave him money to get out of the house because you wanted him out of the house. The only way he was going to get out of the house is by a little bit of blackmail, according to you. That's what it amounts to. I'm not getting out of the house unless I get some money. Good character. What this is not paying child support because he has enough to support this child. And if you don't need the money that he gives you every week, take it and put it in a college fund for her.
Oh, I could use the money.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you went through a lot of money. Now, you have an obligation to support the children you make, sir. Otherwise, you got to keep it zipped. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sons and daughters, they're entitled to support from two parents. You don't just make them like a bee and leave them. You make them and you support them. It seems to me the two women that you have had children with have been cleaning up after you, and it's time at age 43 to start cleaning up after yourself. You got it? So, Miss Batista, I don't think he owes you a dime for the money that you laid out to support him and to feed this 43-year-old hulking guy. But I think that you best get yourself quickly and take those papers that you have not filled out yet and go into family court and get an order retroactive, and you have to ask for a retroactive order, to the birth of your daughter, including whatever unreimbursed medical expenses you had for her, and file those papers and have him served.
What about the verbal agreements we had? He said he was going to pay for the bills when I was on leave without pay.
I know. And then you gave him more money. You didn't stop. What you were doing was, those are pillow promises. That's not a contract.